Thank you for coming in. I wanted to talk with you because you have a breadth of knowledge on cameras and photography. Also, your work's really good. I've seen it online. But moreover, you've lived maybe 2 or 3 lives at this point. I mean, you're an Israeli immigrant, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I left Israel in '89. Friends bought me a ticket to come here.
Really?
Another friend bought a car, or gave me money to buy a cheap car.
Really?
So I can start to work. I done all the immigration stuff.
And did you know English well then?
I could speak very well and could read very well. Writing was a problem of mine.
How old were you though when you came?
I was 30.
So literally you lived a full life in Israel.
Yeah.
And what part of Israel did you live in?
I grew up in the first American kibbutz.
Kibbutz, okay.
Or I can explain what is a kibbutz, but it's living in a collective, and it basically the first American establishment, any establishment from any kind in Israel.
And were you born into that, or?
I born into that.
Okay. And what part of the country is that?
It's between Haifa and Tel Aviv, if you can imagine. California, you got the ocean in the left,
Wow. Okay.
on the west, and then a mountain going up.
So it's a lot like California then?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. But for a landscape, but what about the people?
People are, Israel, it's a melting pot. So in some ways, it's a lot like America. You'll see people in all colors, in all food.
Probably a bit more so there. I think.
We have it all. We have it all. In my own family, we have it all.
Wow.
I mean, my mom from Egypt, my dad was a Holocaust survivor from Poland.
Okay.
They met in Israel, in the kibbutz.
Your mom's from Egypt. Your dad was a Holocaust survivor from Poland.
From Poland.
Okay.
And they met in that kibbutz. When I said it was the first American establishment, it was a group of Jews from up north, probably New Jersey, Brooklyn, this area. I can tell by the accent now that and another group from Poland, and they met in Israel or Palestine at the time.
Yeah.
And they were all city boys, so they went for a year to learn to be a farmer, and then they purchased some land and they started my kibbutz.
Wow.
And they were buying more and more land. It's another story, but
yeah, sure.
And my mom came in 1945 on a train. Israel became state in 1948. So
1945.
1945, there was still a train that you could take from Cairo to Afula, which...
And it doesn't exist anymore?
The rails are still there.
But it's been shut down?
Yes.
Why?
Because in 1948, when Israel became a state, there was a plan that the United Nations was offering the Palestinians and the Jews. The Jews accept the plan. The Arabs rejected it.
The Palestinians?
Palestinians. We called them Arabs at the time because not before. It's another thing that people don't even know and don't think about, that everything before 1948 that associated with Jews was called Palestinian. There was the Palestinian.
Everything associated with Jews was Palestinian.
It was Palestinian
But
names. The Arabs, what we call today Palestinians, we called Arabs. And the Jews was the Palestinian. There was a Palestinian brigade in the in the British Army. It was Jewish Brigade. There was a Palestinian Post. It's today the Jerusalem Post.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Everything before 1948 associate with the word Palestine was not associated with our Arab neighbors. It was associated with the Jews that lived in Palestine at the same time.
I find that strikingly similar to kind of what happened with the Republicans and Democrats here. So the racist people back in the day were the Democrats.
Yeah.
And then now somehow that coin flipped, and now Republicans are considered hyper...
Considered. If it's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. You know?
Yeah.
And I've seen some of your memes online, and they're interesting. And I think there's a lot to be said about, you know, the nature of today.
Yeah.
Hey, Charmaine.
How you doing?
You feeling all right? You good?
Yeah, you ready?
All right. This is Itai. Itai
Hi.
is a Jewish immigrant who happens to be a photographer. Very good one. So we're just going to start. Cool. Thanks for coming too, by the way. All right. So tell me a little bit more about your childhood. Start there. Don't start in Cali or wherever you landed. Start with your childhood. What was that like? Growing up in one of the first American settlements in Israel.
In Israel, it was very different because there is no. In America, there was the hippies tried something similar in the '60s, but it didn't really work for them. They weren't enough serious. It's come really from very strong left ideology, Marxist, Leninist.
The people who started your group.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were on the left side of the political map.
And you grew up in this.
I grew up in this.
Okay.
A kibbutz is a collective. It's a place where...
Kibbutz.
Kibbutz mean gathering.
Charmaine, there's a place called kibbutz in Israel. If you can look it up on a map for us at some point, it'd be really cool.
About 3% of Israel live in this kind of models, villages.
Okay.
Now they're going from left to right, politically and ideology.
Just inside this little place called Israel.
Yes.
Okay, it's just literally it is a real melting pot then.
Yes.
Because when I look at it on a map, it looks like it's about the size of New Jersey.
It is.
It doesn't.
That's how you describe it. Yeah.
Maybe New Jersey and New York, parts of New York, like Manhattan, Long
Really,
Island.
it's New Jersey.
Really?
It's almost exactly the size of Israel.
It's really small.
Yeah.
It's one of our smallest states. I mean, I've driven through New Jersey probably a dozen times, and it only takes like 3 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours.
Israel is long and kind of not long, but
yeah, but you could be from the coast to the border on the side in a half hour if you could get through all the gates, right?
yeah.
If you could get through all the different checkpoints.
Yeah.
So
You can drive from north to south in 4 to 6 hours, depending on how you drive and how you're doing.
A lot of people, especially young people today, they really just kind of throw their hands up in the air about what Israel is and whether or not Israel should even exist. And, you know, a lot of people on the left today are like, oh, those poor Palestinians. It seems to me like they've been going eye for an eye for a really long time. However, it does seem like the Israelis have the upper hand significantly at this point. And there is some cruelty involved, you can say, on their end when it comes to, you know, not just like how they've, you know, made people leave their homes, but then, you know, it seems like there's a sectism or even a racism there, or there's some type of rift that we don't understand as Americans. Can you explain it to us?
Israel is one of the most free nation. Maybe America is the only one that I can say.
Certainly in the Middle East.
In the world.
Yeah, but I mean, in the Middle East, they're sitting out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, we are. To me, it's very simple. It's I maybe shouldn't get into the spiritual part of it, but that's where it really lays.
Mm. Well, that's the Americans too.
We, the Jews, been on that land since Abraham.
Yeah. Well, it's
Get the get-go from God, and
Yeah.
he goes there and he established his kids, his family, eventually established this group of people that been there forever. They're a part of the Middle East. We are cousins. We and the Arabs are cousins. We have the same father.
Mm.
It can check genetically.
Okay.
Okay, we are not foreign to this place. We are not. They try to. There's a lot of propaganda that people. We are the. There is nothing more. How you say it in English? Native. If the Aborigines are native to Australia, the Israelis are native to that place. We've been dispersed around the world. And miraculously, we came back.
Right here to kibbutz.
That's it right there.
This is where you grew up?
So Lebanon.
There's many of them.
There is?
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
So pull
this
out-
is the kibbutz.
Pull
Daphne?
out to the hole. To the hole.
So yeah, it's
So
down
where?
from Beirut.
Go to Ein HaShofet, E-I-N, if you can.
Say it.
EIN.
E-I-N dash HASHOFET,
This one.
HaShofet,
Yep.
Hashafet.
the eye of the judge, Louis de Brandeis.
So that's it. That's where you are.
Yeah.
Go down to the street view so we can like see the.
This is a street view.
Oh, you know what I mean, like the.
Yeah, I got you. Hang on.
Not bad. All right. So you had the mountains there on the right, and then
All fields around it, it's all our fields.
see this is frustrating for me because when we look at an aerial view of Israel here, it looks like farmland. It does look like California. Lots of farmland, really busy city districts too, but when you look at pictures of Israel on CNN, they only show like the grimiest, clutteriest city and like the fences and everything's in that long focus from way far away from on like a 300 millimeter. And so everything looks like it's on top of itself. And it doesn't look like there's any, it looks like LA or something, the way they show
You
it.
gotta go there, you won't believe. It's all green.
Huh.
We greened the whole place.
So,
It
and that,
was desolated land before we came
where's
there.
that water coming from?
Most of it from the Jordan River,
I see.
a few reservoirs that the Kinneret Lake or the
Yeah.
Sea of Galilee.
Yeah. Look at the neighborhoods, Charmaine. They look like it looks like you're looking down on Illinois or something.
Here the members are living. My parents' home was somewhere here.
Really?
This is the high school. This is all the working areas. Our cows, chickens, factories are all here.
And he lived there till he was 30.
And these are all our fields.
Yeah.
We have a lot of agriculture and 2 small factories.
Huh.
My kibbutz have.
And so this was a Marxist installment.
Yes.
Okay, and what do you think about Marxism? Because your post lead me to believe that you're not a fan.
I'm not a fan because I grew up in it. And I grew up in the best example of any. You have to understand, in a kibbutz, I'll give you an example. When I grew up, I never lived with my parents.
Who'd you live with?
Each group of kids had their own home.
Did you want to live with your parents?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's something I think today was a big mistake. They think it's a big mistake. They changed it. Now the
Really?
kids do live with their parents.
So, but that Marxist ideal, that's very Aryan Brotherhood. They would take the kids from the homes, put them in these camps.
It came a lot from the need. If they believe that a woman to be free have to be freed from raising the kid. So by the collective take the responsibility, and by removing the kids from the parents' home, the woman is free as a man.
Is your mother like that?
What we saw over 100 years of experiment that's going on is that women naturally choose woman.
To be a motherly
Yeah,
figure.
to be a motherly figure, to be teachers, to be nurses, to be the typical stuff that a woman choose, or what you see in society, women choose and men choose, happened naturally in the kibbutz.
Yeah.
Only really a few women chose to work in the fields or in the...
Well, and that's how it is in every occupation.
Yeah,
Like in
I think
cameras,
so.
you know, there's 9 guys and there's just one girl who's better than all of them. You know, and she's
Yeah,
just really
yeah,
good.
Many times they're good at what they're doing. There is no reason. And the kibbutz allow that because of the way we live. If a woman wanted to be in the manufacturing and have the talent to be in management position, she was, you know, but what I saw in all this is that still the only thing that really keep that thing going and going good is money in the end. To be successful, they had to deal with the world in a capitalistic way. They had to offer a product for sale. You
And because
cannot
at the moment
avoid
you offer a product for sale, you're no longer Marxist.
Yes.
Or at the moment you
So
purchase product.
inside we lived as socialists, but out with the outside world we deal just like capitalists. When a cow was dying and you have to sell the meat, you call the butcher. If it's an Arab or a Jew, you argue on the price.
Yeah.
It's like any other capitalist.
There's not a government entity bringing the money to the butcher.
No,
Yeah.
no, because the rest of the country is just living like a normal way of life. We live different. So, but when we deal with the outside world, and you deal all the time with the outside world,
Yeah.
then we deal just like capitalism. We make product, we compete in the market, we if it's food that we raise or grow, or if it's that we supply General Motors with our patent that hold the spare on every General Motors SUV and truck out there. The parts that hold the spare tire, we make. So, and we make it here in the United States. American working in the factory, there's only one family from the kibbutz that
Really?
here. So, yes. So, money is the key for everything, and you cannot, if there is no some kind of drive like this, people start to be lazy. Why to work?
Well, I mean,
you know, we say everybody have to work, but why to work?
Well, I can make an argument as an artist that I choose to work because I wish to make the world a better place. The Star Trekian mindset.
I agree with you.
That Jean-Luc Picard, Star Trek Enterprise mindset of we don't work for money, we work because we wish the world to be better. And our input makes the world better. And that works for me, but I have members of my family who just sit on their butt and they don't work. And there's nothing there driving them. And so I understand that I'm most likely an anomaly to that, you know, because there's a lot, for every 9 people who are sitting on their ass right now, there's me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I know that I have to hustle in order for myself to make money because I don't have a 9 to 5, right? I work as a contractor. And 9 to 5 people often don't understand how contractors exist. And a lot of them are afraid of that mindset of, hey, I'm just going to let go of my 9 to 5 and I'm just going to go make it on my own somehow. And, you know, if they don't have someone telling them what to do, what time to get up, what time to put on their pants and go to work, they fear that they won't, and they won't have a way to earn money.
What do you do in a kibbutz when you want to be an artist?
What do you do?
And everybody have to work, everybody have to make a living.
You can't be one then.
It's very hard. What allow for you to be an artist, it's wealth.
I can say that's true because I didn't
So
really free myself up. And
for example, when I was in my 20s, I wanted to be an actor.
Mhm.
And the kibbutz offered me something different.
What they offer you?
I was working in the cotton field. I was managing a small part of it. And they saw me going to study agriculture, maybe go teach some at home in farms, and then go outside Israel, teach
So they had their own ideas about
third
what.
world countries how to utilize their water and how to,
Okay. So they had their own ideas as to how you were going to become.
yeah,
And when
what
you didn't
lay
fit,
ahead for me. So,
when you didn't fit that mold because you had an artist's eye,
yeah, artist.
you were already into photography, I'd imagine.
Now, yes, but
Well-
at the time, that's what caused me to leave.
Was the agriculture?
Was the fact that I wanted to
Oh, I
go
see.
and study acting, and
I see.
and I couldn't do it in a kibbutz. The kibbutz would not allow me to do it.
And so by the age of 30, you had had enough of that. And you're
26, I had enough of that. I left and went to study acting.
Did you go straight to California?
No, I first went to study acting
Where did you study acting?
in Israel.
In Israel. Can you tell me the name of the school?
It's I forget.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time, but I didn't stay. That's why I don't really remember
Okay.
it so much. It was very hard for me to make a living,
Yes.
starting from nothing,
Yeah.
no any help, no any nothing. I mean, real nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And work and do it. So I started to work in the industry.
In the acting industry.
Yeah, in the theater
Okay.
industry.
And what were you doing?
I was managing 2 shows, and then I managed a third one that I was also acting in.
Hmm.
In the meantime, I was studying different ways, and
And this was in
Was-
your native language?
yeah,
And what's your native language again?
Hebrew.
Hebrew. Okay. Okay.
Theater is very strong in Israel,
I can see that.
and after 4 years working in that industry, I realized that that's not what I want to do, and that's when I came to America.
Well, let me back you up one more time before we get to America. Did you have to serve in the military when you
Yes,
were
of
young?
course.
So 18?
18 to
And
21.
you served in the Israeli military for 3 years.
Well, that's part of being Israeli.
This was back during what was it?
1977 to 1981.
Okay, so things had settled down a bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the 60s.
No.
And Israel was pretty active in the 60s, from what I
Yeah.
can remember. Because we were. Korea, Vietnam.
Yeah, the
I imagine.
67 war, there was a 59 war, there was a 67, 72. So I was a kid in the 67 and the 72.
So you saw it.
Just from a kid eye.
Yeah, and things were happening right around you.
Yeah, of course. Israel is so small.
This was before Iron Dome, too, right?
Yeah.
So,
For
Think-
me, so.
yeah, so things were actually hitting. And
Well, not so much. It's just the fact that in 1967, for example, the men got cold very early. I mean, 3 months, I think.
what got
before.
cold?
Men was called the reserve.
Okay. Oh, they got called.
You don't finish your service. You finish your mandatory, you start your reserve.
Okay.
So all the reserve was already called, I think, a few months ahead. And my dad too. So in the kibbutz, the only one who stay are the women, the kids, and the elderly, and some handicapped that cannot go or serve.
And you were
in that situation, for me as a kid, I find myself, I don't know, it's hard to remember some things.
yeah.
Some things I do remember very clear.
Mm-hmm.
The trenches in the kibbutz, and one of our classmates' father died. That I remember very strong.
While they were fighting, or
No, he was actually in an air base not far away from us. And I think Syrian airplane made it all the way in and dropped a bomb right where he was. He was anti, and he got killed. And that was something I remember because very strong from one side, but from the other side, I didn't understood it at the time.
Mm.
When we've been told that, we were laughing.
you were children.
Yeah, we were children. We were
Yeah.
9 years old.
And playing guns and robbers and shooting each other with invisible guns and doing
Then
what kids do.
when I was a teenager, it was more of a, you take responsibility, and I enjoyed that in a way.
Yeah.
That all the men are away, and you're the one who have to drive, even though you don't have driving license. You make sure the milk comes from the dairy farm to the kitchen.
You were just keeping things moving.
Yeah. The teenagers are was very important at that time.
It'd be funny to see what would happen here if all of our teenagers had to do those things.
I can see the Americans do it, but America is so big. Israel, the resources are small and human. We were, when I was in the service, I think there was 3 million Jews in Israel.
Really?
Now there is almost 7.
And you're Jewish?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Flashing forward to today, what's your take on everything happening with Israel and with the liberal left in our media and elsewhere? But on the American side, a lot of the liberals think that the Palestinians are the ones being accosted, right? And they're wagging their finger at the Jews because the Jews are claiming their homes, taking their homes from them, saying, well, it's just the government told me I could do it. But we're only seeing that story.
No,
we don't know the rest.
You see a lot of Hollywood.
Hollywood, what's that?
Palestinian wood.
Okay.
Bollywood.
Okay.
Like Hollywood, Bollywood.
Okay, tell me more.
They making propaganda, a lot of it.
Okay.
And the media here gives them the okay, the green light. They don't check, they don't, the thing is this, it's after Second World War ended, the Jews was David, and the Arab world was Goliath.
Okay. Well,
Everybody felt sorry for us.
We saw that with the film 300.
What?
With the film 300, there was a movie that came out called The 300.
300.
Right. And in that film, it kind of goes back farther, but the Arab nation, they were the antagonists in the film.
Yeah.
And they were all monstrous and then mutated and deformed looking. And, it's like, come on.
No, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
But no, what in general, the way to understand it, the humanity don't care for truth, history. It's all about narrative. The David and Goliath narrative is very easy. If one side is weak and the other side is strong, it's very clear who is Goliath, who is
Well,
David.
hold on. All right. That's interesting because back then, the Jewish nation was David.
Yeah.
And the Arab nation was Goliath. But now, it seems that the Jewish nation is Goliath.
Yeah.
And the Arab nation is not. But I hate to go there, but in Revelations, they talk about a 200 million man army that comes and takes Jerusalem. And just recently, China and Russia backed the Taliban. And if they back the Taliban and the Taliban gains strength in Afghanistan, eventually, don't you think they're going to come to Israel?
Absolutely. I was going to touch it, but I wanted to start it from
Go back.
give a little bit.
Go back.
Nothing really changed. You know, the Arabs thought they can win Israel in wars. When they realized that they cannot win wars, they took the Palestinian cause and turned it into the political tool. A war is also a political tool. You don't go to a war just to fight.
Yeah.
It's always for something else.
Your ideas.
So they create that. Arafat wasn't an Egyptian. He was not even a Palestinian. Even Abbas is Syrian. We can tell you every one of those Palestinians. There is no such a thing, really. They're all Arabs from neighboring countries that came around in 1970 when the British allowed them to come in. They needed, the Jewish population was growing, of course, as Jewish coming in. They bring business, they bring work, so
They needed workers.
Cheap labor was needed, mostly for the British, actually. And they allow more Arabs to come in, and that's what is forming the Palestinians of today. Now, why I believe that the Palestinian thing eventually going to disappear? Because I am a Jewish Christian, and I understand the spiritual part. It's very clear, and everyone that believe know that is eventually Russia, China, Sudan, some of the Arab world, Turkey, Iran, all going to go after Israel. And America would not be there to help anymore.
Well, with our current presidency, I don't believe they would be.
No.
They'll pull out of Israel just as quickly as they did Afghanistan.
Well, luckily Israel is not. Israel depends more on supply of parts and ammunition and stuff like this, but everything is made there too.
Well, not much is
Biden,
made in America anymore.
The American army don't take any real part in Israeli wars. The only thing that's different, since I was a kid, when I was a kid, there were no American soldiers, period. Now there is some, but it's mostly they're using Israel the United States is using Israel as their biggest weapon depot.
Well, it's also probably more the UN, too.
And if they pull out, the Israelis will have all this.
The weapons will stay.
Yeah,
just like they say in Afghanistan.
Just like they done in Afghanistan, just like they done in Vietnam, just like
It's
they
too
done
expensive
Second
to
World
bring them
War,
out
Korea, you
than
name
it is to just leave them.
Yeah. It's always been like that. Not like that, but yes.
Well, this time it was pretty grotesque, the way they left all the weapons.
Yeah.
And so now all those weapons are pointed back at us. And even more so, probably. And so if it happens again in Israel...
A part of the prophecies, America, to me, is very clear. I don't like it, but it's very clearly going to shrink down.
America will?
Yeah, not in size, but in influence on world events. Americans just going to live on their island for the best of their abilities, good or bad.
You're insinuating that we'll become isolationists in a way.
Yes.
Well, that worked for China, it seems, for a long, long time. For 20,000 years, I think, right? And so when America became really strong in, let's say, the 1950s, at post-World War II, China just kind of stayed to themselves. Even they had their own world war to fight against Japan, but we didn't see China step into Europe at all. China left Russia alone. China left the Germans alone. And seemingly, Adolf Hitler was smart enough to know, hey, let's just leave them alone, because if we go after China, we're probably going to ruin ourselves. And he underestimated.
Or at least wait till we have an atomic bomb to deal with it.
Well, he didn't have them.
No.
Right, and he got arrogant when he went after Russia because he thought that he could take them. And I guess he's like, well, should we go after Russia or China? The Russians look weaker than the Chinese, so let's go after them. And it didn't work out. And I saw this World War II documentary about, it was The Man in the High Tower. It wasn't a documentary, it was a film. And it talked about how Hitler could have won World War II. And had he just gone west instead of going north to Russia, he would have had all the resources he needs to take over Europe and then eventually hop across to Canada and then down.
The Man in the High Castle.
The Man in the High Castle, yeah, sorry, I got it wrong. But yeah, really good series. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
My dad, late in his, during the war, he was in the group of prisoners that were in Belgium mining the place for the V3, which the V3 that was supposed to carry nuclear heads.
Okay, the bomber.
Yeah.
And
The Germans bombed London with the V1 and the V2s.
Was he mining for Germany?
Yeah, he was a prisoner.
I see.
That's kind of how
In Poland.
he
But
he actually was caught in Germany when the war started. He was studying machinery
okay.
in Germany.
But that was
His
scary.
family sent him to Germany to study, and he was caught right at the beginning. And he was a good worker. He was looking a lot like German, and they liked him and they kept him alive. The SS officers that was in charge on the group of actually war prisoners was getting him out of the ghetto, him and another Jew. They were the only Jews in the group. The rest was other nations, war prisoners, Russians, Ukrainians, all kinds. But him and another guy, they would get out of the ghetto every day, go to work. Come lunchtime, the SS officer will eat, and then they'll leave everything on the table and call only my dad to clean it up. And they all live in the room.
And he would eat it.
That he had the time to eat, make sure that he smuggled it to the ghetto.
And take it to his friends.
And the gates guard never checked him because the SS officer told him not to.
Huh.
So that's how he survived. And the last thing was, in the
This is
end of the
before you
war,
were born, right? Yeah.
I wouldn't be here without a Second World War vets.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be here. In the end of the war, Hitler, when he was in Belgium, like I said, he was mining with a group of war prisoners the place for the V3. The Germans was working on the V3 that was supposed to eventually carry a nuke. And Hitler was realizing that the war was over and they're losing. At that point, every Jew they could grab to send to the death camps, they tried to murder as many as they can. And my dad was sent to Auschwitz, and then the Americans and the Russians came.
So he was in Auschwitz when they came?
Yeah.
How long was he there?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
He never liked to talk much.
Long enough to
Every time I would ask him.
petrify someone. Yeah.
The only thing he ever told me, Ty, my life saved because of good SS officers. The last time I saw him was here in the United States before he passed away, 2 years before he passed away. We already knew he had cancer, and I knew it was the last time I'm going to see him, and it was before I became a Christian. And I just asked him, Dad, tell me any horror story. I want to know everything. I want to know how you survived. And I don't believe only because of good SS officers.
Mm-hmm. What did he say?
You know, and he said to me, Ty, I never wanted you and your brother and sister to grow with hate to anybody. My life was saved because of good Germans.
Mm.
And that's where I left it. He never said anything.
Well, I mean,
He
that's
said
interesting.
more to Steven Spielberg was in our home and make a little movie.
Steven Spielberg came to your home
Yeah,
to make a movie.
on that. Oh, not just that, but almost every Holocaust survivor.
Oh, really? Can we pull that up at some point? Not now, but not now. But
It's been stolen from me. I don't have it.
But was it published? It was published.
I don't know what Steven Spielberg done with it, but my sister for sure have copies.
If you can come across them, and where does your sister live?
In Israel.
Okay, well, that might be hard.
And it's probably PL system. You have to convert it
Hey,
to.
I've been there.
Yeah.
It's PL.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
You should. I've got a.
They sent me them, and they were PL. Later, somebody broke to my house and stole a bag where those videos were.
What? Can you tell Charmaine your father's full name? It was a Minovitz.
Monovich.
Manovich.
They twist my name a little bit when I came to the
Oh, they
States.
changed it. Word.
They
The
just spelled it wrong, so, you know.
you had to
doesn't
leave
really-
it that way for your. That sucks. So tell her how to spell your father's name.
It's Shmuel,
Shmuel.
Monovitch.
Now, how do you spell Shmuel?
Shmuel, Shmule.
I got it right.
Or
You got it right.
Yeah, it's very close to German, so like
All right, all right, all right.
Shmuel.
And then type in Spielberg and see if anything shows up. See if
Spielberg got some money from ABC. And
this had to have been in the 80s.
yeah, I believe late 80s probably, early 90s. He realized that all the Holocaust survivors are dying.
Well, yeah.
So he wanted to get their stories.
There aren't any left now,
I
are there?
can't find it.
He
Can you
wanted
spell
to
his
get their
his first
stories.
name one more time?
Spell his first name one more time.
Shmuel,
Mm-hmm.
Shmuel.
S-H-M.
Okay,
I did that right.
And if that doesn't come up, look up Spielberg documentary on Holocaust, 1980s, then 1990s, and see if you get something. And you know that it was on HBO or something. It had to have been. It had to have been. I don't know if they published him or.
Do you know the name of it, maybe?
He went and done a lot of research and contact every Holocaust survivor that he could.
Yeah.
And if they were willing to interview.
I bet this was before Schindler's List. I bet this was pre-Schindler's List because he was probably trying to get an idea because he was making that film. And remember, it was a big undertaking.
When did he make Schindler's List?
Schindler's List, 1994. Let me see. Let me know if I'm right.
1993.
3. Look at me. I'm close.
Yeah, it's probably.
And so I bet it was
He
like
got a lot
91,
of stories.
92. And so he may have just been recording these just to make the film. They might not have even been published. Right? And so.
No, I don't know if they published or not, but every one of us or every one that he interviewed got cassettes of the interview and the whole thing.
I would love to see that. If you come across them someday, somehow, I would love to copy them. I don't care if they're PL or whatever they are. We'll get them copied down to a disc, and then we'll put them in our archive, and we'll give them to you archived. Just let me know.
I need to tell my sister just to send me
Yeah,
another copy of it.
yeah, we'll see. But okay, so you served in the military, and so you're technically a veteran, an Israeli military veteran. What, you didn't see any combat, am I correct?
Not really, no.
But there was some skirmishes and stuff. and
Yeah,
whatever.
well, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
a little bit.
I mean, Israel's the front lines for Western culture. Literally. Well, maybe now Turkey too. But back then, probably not, right? And so-
Turkey is very different than Israel.
Yeah. Oh, but a lot
Israel is
of,
where really,
Western customs or cultural happenings are happening in Turkey. From my sister went to visit Istanbul, and she told me that a lot of the things there feel very Western. So I don't know. I haven't been there myself. I've only seen films, documentaries, and stuff. But Israel seems to be like more of the cultural boundary, right?
Yeah,
So,
Israel is very, very Western. Very,
Yeah.
very Western. Even it's a melting pot, so you have a lot of Mediterranean flavor in the people.
really good food.
Very intense.
People take themselves very seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
I've run into a few people here. Don't say your mama joke around them. They don't take your mama jokes well. I found that out the hard way. You know? Because when we were coming up, we'd be like, whatever, your mom or something. And I met an Armenian guy one time, and that's not the same, but he was very not into that. And so it's like, okay, sorry, man. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
But Americans are much more lighthearted, it seemed. And maybe we haven't lived as hard, and that's why. So,
I wanted to touch something that you mentioned, and I got to touch with it.
please.
I want to explain how it happened. How it happened that here you don't pay rent, the landlord come, give you 30 days notice, the next thing you know you are in court,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to go out. And,
Yeah.
and no problem, it's happened every day in every court, in every town.
Well, there are places where people get locked in, and it's weird, but for the most
But
part,
in the most part,
it's
there's
pretty
no
black and
question.
white. If you don't pay your rent, you don't live there.
Yeah, or mortgage or whatever your obligations are.
Yeah,
To have a roof over your head, you have to pay somebody,
yeah.
kind of.
I'm well aware.
So yeah, we all are. And what happened in that, what really happened in this house in Sheikh Jarrah, and how they twisted into a narrative where Israel doing something wrong or somebody in Israel doing something wrong. In 1870 something, a Jewish family bought those buildings, this house. It's a complex of apartments, okay? They bought it in 1870. They have the deeds. They have Turkish deeds.
And this is like 4 generations later.
No, they owned it till 1948, when the War of Independence happened.
Okay.
The Jordanian ended up with this part of Jerusalem after when the war ended.
The part that you were in.
The part that family was in.
Got it.
Their
So,
house
The,
ended up
the Palestinians.
in the Jordanian,
the Arabs.
in the Arab part.
And so earlier in the podcast, before you were here, he explained that a long time ago the Palestinians were the Jews and the Arabs were the Arabs. But then all of a sudden the Arabs were the Palestinians and the Jews were the Jews, and the Israelis.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was like this weird flip-flop in what Palestinian meant. The same way Democrats kind of turn into Republicans or vice versa here. So, okay, go ahead.
But this changed hand, okay? It was under Israeli, and the guy have the deeds, he pay taxes on it and everything, okay? A war happened, and the line now moved, and the house now is in Jordanian. How you call it?
But they're claiming it's theirs now.
Wait.
Okay.
The Jordanians push all the Jews out of the neighborhood, just ran them off.
What year do you think this was?
1948.
1948. Okay.
He owned it from 1870 to 1948. Lived in it, owned it. It's his.
Yeah.
The war happened. The Jordanian took it over, threw him away. He moved him to Israel,
They
took
cast
it
him
home,
out, yeah.
and rented it to a Palestinian. Then the 67 war came. Israel took back his land.
And he got his land back.
No, wait,
Yeah.
eventually, yeah, that's what it was
Yeah.
all about. Israel took that land back, The house is now under Israeli law. The guy come and say, or pay me rent or get out. And the Israeli court back him up because it's his. The Arab don't have no papers, no nothing.
And they still
He
had
can't
the
even
deeds.
show that he pays rent.
He held on to those deeds for 11 years or something like that. The papers. He held on to them from 1948 to 1967.
He held them from
He held-
1870.
Yeah, but I mean, he 1948 to 67. A lot of crazy stuff happened. You know, he was, and it's not like there was a digital backup. He kept those
Yeah,
precious
yeah.
papers
Yeah.
for however long it took
Yeah.
for the Israelis to take it back over, and then he claimed it.
How a judge can,
Yeah.
what the judge can say for the Arab, and even if you have big mercy on the Arab, what he can tell you, okay, stay 3 months, or start to pay the, what he told him first, the judge told the Arab, pay the guy rent and you can stay.
And so, if there is an Arab family in a home in Israel today, and a Jewish man, woman, or a young child, or whomever has a deed to that property, they can come back to the judge and say, aha. And then that Arab family, even if they're paying rent to a different landlord,
No, they never paid for a different landlord. The only one they paid was for the Jordanian. When the Jordanian owned it, they pay rent to the Jordanian government. But now the Israeli government owned it. He did pay rent, not to the government and not to the guy that rightfully owned the property. So the media flip it over, again, Goliath,
David and Goliath.
David and Goliath. So the people believe them. But
Well,
it's no more than a story of normal, you know?
I mean, you keep bringing up David and Goliath, and while it might seem like the Israelis are Goliath right now, in the grand scheme of the world, Western culture is certainly David. I mean, China.
No, not really. I tell you why.
Well, hold on. Let me paint the picture, and then you wash over it and explain to me why I'm wrong. We've got, I don't know how many billion Chinese. We've got, I don't know how, maybe 1 billion Russians. Okay, right? Then looks like Canada is being swept socialist. South America is socialist. Africa, we don't know what that is right now. Like, it seems to me like it's property of China, but there's other things happening there, obviously, right? And then Europe is the West, and America is the West. And we can call Canada the West in part, but it certainly ain't looking good. And so we have 300 million people in America. And then I don't know how many Europeans there are, but if there's 1 billion of us, there's another 7 billion, socialist, Marxist groups of people out there all over the whole planet, and we seem like the anomaly. We don't seem like, Western culture doesn't seem so broad and vast if you compare it to China, Russia, and South America. It's a lot of people
Yeah.
being socialist. And so, give me your take.
First,
Oh, and I forgot about Australia, but they're having their own problems.
yeah, Australia went back to be a prison, looked like. But
It's not looking
I
good.
think that a lot of the people that live under those socialist societies, countries, they never choose to live like that.
Well, I don't think that you do choose to live that way. You're
No.
born there, and you're like, oh, well, I guess this is how it is.
Yeah, but today with information, with internet, movies,
But they give up their guns. So when they give up their guns, it seems like a lot of their rights are
Yeah.
taken.
look, our rights can be taken too. The minute we give up our guns, the minute we allow legislature to avoid or to even go against the Constitution, they need to go. And eventually, I don't know, it's maybe nothing going to happen and we're all going to be slaves again, or it's going to be another civil war. Because even the swap that you talk about, there is a lot of people that don't believe in that swap.
The swap. Tell me again. Remind me of what I said.
The political swap in Democrats and Republicans.
Right.
It's things the Democrats want us to believe. I don't see it. I see the same Democrat, Ku Klux Klan in Andrews and in Jackson County still vote Democrats. They don't vote for Republicans, even though their ideology
Their country.
or the way they feel about this country is more like Republicans, but they don't vote Republican. Their father, their grandfather, their grand-grandfather. I talked to them. I worked in a indoor swap meet in Andrews where Nazis would surround me. I had to talk with them because they were having Nazi flags the size of this.
Nazis?
Nazis,
In
Ku Klux
Andrews?
Klan.
Ku Klux Klan and Nazis, how did they become the same thing? Because I think if they were in a room together, they'd fight.
No, it's one vendor. I was selling in a swap meet. I was selling Native American jewelry, okay? And next to me, there was a guy that sell Nazi memorabilia, KKK.
And you're a Jewish man.
And I'm Jewish. So I'm looking at him the first weekend, and I see the guy have a wife, have 3 beautiful kids.
Were they?
Great.
Were they?
No.
Did they look like Aryan
They
Brotherhood?
look like Ari. They were blonde, blue eyes. They looked
Alright.
Germans, or they could be, I don't know what.
Yeah.
I started to talk to the guy the second weekend.
Mm.
And I told him who I am and what I'm coming from, and I told him this stuff is offensive to me.
Oh, yeah.
You don't understand what it represents, and I'm very careful try to understand his worldview. And we became friends.
Isn't that funny?
He bought all my jewelry from me.
Uh-huh.
We traded it for a car.
For a car. He gave you a car? What kind of car?
Lincoln.
I thought he was going to give you like a Volkswagen thing or
No,
something.
no, nice Lincoln.
Be funny if he's like, I've got a Volkswagen thing in the back, Nazi memorabilia all over it.
He explained me all why he's doing. It's nothing that we think. It's not the Nazis that we think. He took all the Nazi flags off, all the KKK.
While you were there?
Yeah,
That was nice of him.
yeah. He took it all. He told me the memorabilia in the glass cases. I had a museum full of this.
He did.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So he was a collector.
yeah.
And it's worth a lot of
Yeah.
money.
But
Mm-hmm.
there was people with Nazi tattoos coming to him.
Let me tell you a story. My wife is like, her grandmother was full-blood Italian. All right, like she had an accent, like your accent's thick, but Italian. And they gave us this big vase, like that you would like wash a baby in, and on the bottom was a swastika. And we were like, but it was a small, and it was the same color as the vase. It wasn't like black and red, but it was a stamp on the white clay bottom, and it was the swastika, and it was really valuable. But it looked like a Jewish piece, by the way. It was white, and it had blue, beautiful blue.
Well, swastika are used in many different cultures.
Yeah, but it was pre-World War II. It was from like
Yeah.
1800 and something. So
I tell you, for me, I made a lot of research on this because to me, when I came to America, I had one view about, for example, black people.
tell me your view.
I thought they're great in everything they're doing because all what we know across the broad is what we see on
Michael
on the
Jordan.
screen. Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. We look at the Olympics. We see
You're like, my
black
God, these people.
Black people.
They're so talented.
Yeah, they're so talented in everything they do, and so when I came to America and I started to hear even from some friends some things that didn't sit well, I was going, what are you talking? Where it's come from?
Anti-black sentiment and stuff like that. Like,
It's not even. I don't know if it's in the racist, real racist. It's just something you can say about Jews. It's things that I sometimes say about my own people.
So you're
But
witnessing
if you
some.
say it, it might be sound racist, but it's not real racist.
It's like common knowledge, sort of sometimes. Or
They didn't say much. They just told me, well, you'll see.
Okay.
Kind of. And I was very fortunate to have my own business
Yeah.
very quick. And one day, 3 black guys came in and gave me some hard time. And I told them, guys, let's sit and talk, because I don't get where you're coming from. I came to this country with $400.
Mm.
You don't know how blessed you are.
Mm.
And to grow up in this place.
Were they trying to rob you?
No, just they were blaming foreigners to take all the money and all the work and all the...
Where were you living at the time?
I was in Venice Beach,
You're in Venice
California.
Beach, California. All right.
California.
And this was in the 90s?
And I have a beautiful Native American store.
Was this in the 90s?
Yes.
Was this right before Rodney King?
Yeah.
Okay. So timestamp Rodney King. And you're dealing with a lot of, I guess, differences in opinions upon race culture.
That was one thing that kind of threw me off. And the other thing was a group of, they call themselves Black Israelite. Nobody talks about them because it's not nice.
Why?
They turn into their own kind of Jesus in jail, which is a nice thing, or seems to be a nice thing. Because all of them are clean, they don't do drugs, they don't drink.
Like
they don't-
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Kind of. But they're very militaristic style. They claim that they're the true Jews. I'm an Edomite.
What's an Edomite?
Edomite is one Gentile tribe that was in the area, the Jordan part of today.
Okay.
But they're very violent. Their language is very, very
Crass.
aggressive. They come marching in a military style, dressed with...
They weren't Black Panther?
No,
Okay.
they wear black robes, like biblical type of look.
Kind of like the KKK? Or...
Same kind, just black.
Just
not,
black,
and
not
not a hoodie, no hoodie.
No, yeah.
They do put silver Star of David from metal.
I know
thing.
a black Jewish man too, by the way. He was my physical trainer out in Salt Lake City. Really great guy, Michael Banks. Hey,
There is blacks that are real Jews, but they call themselves the Black Israelite, and they walk into the beach, and you have freedom to speech there.
Yeah, sure.
And
It's
they
Venice
form
Beach.
they form a circle with sticks about 6 foot tall, like a military
Mhm.
thing. And then one of their leaders go in and start to preach about Jesus. But basically, it's full of hate towards white people. They talk about the raping the women, killing the kids, killing all the men.
That's what they're
Just-
going
just
to do?
Non-stop.
That's what they want to do, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
you.
And first, I didn't know how to look at it, so I
No, it's, I don't mean to stop you, it's
No
not
problem.
what they wanna do.
I got it.
It's what they claim that, like, this is what white people have done to
I
us.
got it.
Which, like, true, but, like, they take it to, like, another level of, like...
They're like eye for an eye. Almost.
Well, also, like, blacks are superior, you know?
Hey, whatever.
you see, I had
I got it.
But that's, like, I'll pull it up.
Yeah,
It's not-
I expected you to.
one-on-one. They're really nice people.
Okay. Well,
I had the chance to, because I was the only jewelry store that sell Star of Davids. They came to me all the time to buy Star of Davids in the middle of
so
the week.
they were giving you good business.
Yeah, a little bit,
Yeah.
But so I had a little bit chance to talk with them one-on-one. But the optics of it is very dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very dark. They against everybody. You see the police one time, they were using a speakerphone. So it's not legal to use speakerphone. So they needed 65 policemen to come and to arrest, not the person, the megaphone.
They were going to just confiscate the megaphone.
Confiscate the megaphone. 65, I counted. I thought it, but you have to realize that in a place where there's freedom and you can say whatever you want, you can say whatever you think, and some of it, there is history to back it up, the suffering of black people in America, there is no question about it. But
Sure.
My idea, what bothered me much is that I felt that a little bit give me attitude, mentality. And I look at my family, I look at people that lost everything they had,
Mhm.
everything.
Well, that give me attitude is kind of Marxist, right?
It started Marxist,
Yeah.
but the way we grew up, it was never there.
The way you grew up in a Marxist community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people, maybe you felt it, but it was not very neglected. But it's the way I look at it, I see a group of people that suffer greatly. And then I think, okay, how a group of people that suffer greatly can get out of it from the past and move on into better life. And I look at my people, that a lot of them were doing it. And I know a lot of black people doing it here.
Mhm.
It's not black and white, there's all shades in it.
Yeah.
But what I learned is that you just have to forgive and move on.
Mhm.
And you can forgive the ones who killed your family, and you can forgive the ones who killed. I don't have any relatives on my dad's side.
They're all gone.
All gone in those years of the war. All been genocide.
He was the only one that made
The
it.
only one that make it.
So his mother, his father, his brothers and sisters,
Relatives, everything.
all of them are gone but him.
The dogs, everything.
Mhm. But on your mom's side, you have family.
My mom, yeah, the only side
Mhm.
that I have. But it's a tragedy.
It is.
Here a lot of people used to grow up in single homes. It's already a normal thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean,
But I grew up, it wasn't like this. I know that to have any part of your family,
taken from you.
if it's a husband, if it's a mother, if it's a grandparent, it's all a part of building a stable.
Well, I lost all four of my grandparents and my father in like 4 years. And so 5 members of my family are gone
You
very
were
quickly.
young,
Very young.
very young.
32 when my dad died. Okay. And so like, I was just like trying to pick up the pieces there. And I was really close to my grandparents, especially on my mom's side. But, it was interesting to see the cousins, because luckily we didn't live through a Holocaust. I had cousins. They all kind of helped pick up pieces, and they moved closer. And all of a sudden, we started having Thanksgiving with the Lloyds, but on my grandfather's brother's side. And so we had that chance,
I didn't even have, not on my mom's side either, because my grandfather passed away still in Egypt, and my grandma passed away when my mom was pregnant with me. I was the youngest.
You're the youngest of how
The
many?
youngest, 3.
3. Okay. And your brothers and sisters you just told me your sister's still in Israel. But do you have any family members over on the
My
States?
sister is in the kibbutz,
Okay, your sister's in kibbutz.
and a lot of her kids are in the kibbutz.
Yeah.
My brother had a career in the Air Force. So
Israeli?
he left the kibbutz
Israeli
pretty
Air
early,
Force?
yeah. Usually people that go into military career, they leave the kibbutz.
Well, they go live with the military.
Yeah, because you're not really a part.
Yeah, that's its own community.
Yeah.
And you have another brother, or?
No, and then me.
Okay, so you, your sister, and then your brother. So there's three of you. Did you have a brother pass away, or?
No.
So
no,
there's
no.
just three of you. Okay, there's three of you. You're the
There's
last.
3 of
Okay, got it.
the last, and my mom, my dad passed away, and
Well, how old were you when your dad died?
I was in my 40s.
You were in your 40s. Okay. How would you take it?
Think about him every day.
Same.
It never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
It never goes away. There's moments that you want him to be here, you want to be ask a question.
I know.
You realize how
Well, I don't know if you lived in the era where you could just pick up a phone, but like, my dad's number's still on my phone. And
my
like,
dad would be alive. Now I would milk him
mhm.
from every knowledge that guy had.
Just give me
The
24
guy,
hours.
The guy built factories.
Really?
The guy, yes, he's, and I don't know nothing about it
Yeah.
because I grew up ignorant to how really big he was.
Or our children just don't care what we do they?
We take it for granted.
Do your children? You have children, right?
Not really. I have step kids.
Okay. You never had your own, though.
No.
Okay, I see. But my kid's 4, and she just does. She thinks what I do is cool because I'm visually appealing, but she doesn't understand, how difficult it is to do what I do, and she never sees what my wife does because my wife works out of the home, and so, she's just kind of aloof to the whole thing. She thinks She thinks I play here.
That's your playground.
She's like, can we go play in the studio? And I'm like, of course we can go play in the studio. And I guess that's really good because the more it feels like fun, the better it typically is, the work. So, let me change gears on you though. When did you start working with cameras? Because you're really good with cameras and you know probably more than I will for a long time.
It was a passion. I really wanted to start it much earlier, but I couldn't again because my parents didn't have any really good camera.
It wasn't affordable though either, was it?
Wasn't affordable.
Because the modern SLRs in the 70s were expensive.
Only people that had connections outside the kibbutz could really get one.
So like getting your hands on a Nikon or a Pentax K1000 or something like that was just...
My brother-in-law, the husband of my sister, he came to Israel from Brazil, from a what do you call it in America, middle class.
Middle class family?
Middle class, they were, I think, manufacturing kids' clothes.
Okay.
And he had a Nichromat. And that fascinated me. And I used to go with him to the dark room.
Yeah, same.
But it's really all started when I finished the service.
Okay, so 22?
I was 21. I got out of the base.
You probably had some money.
I gave back my uniforms. And when you finish the 3 years, you finish it at Tel Aviv, you give all your uniform, and you get a check. I don't remember how much it was, but it was enough to buy a used Nikon FM, used with a 35. I don't know how I end up with a 35 1.4 on it.
It's insane.
It's insane. I think that the sellers didn't put attention. They thought it was a 50.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even know what I got. Still.
Do you still have
Till
that
later.
camera?
No.
You should have kept it.
I sold it in Germany.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't gotten rid of anything.
I see.
I have not sold one
I
item.
see.
I mean, this is the original lens off my Pentax K1000,
I
which is my
travel,
first camera.
Josh, too much. I
Yeah.
was moving a lot.
Yeah.
I got to Europe, and I was running out of money, and I knew I need to buy a car so I can work. So I sold the camera and bought a car.
I was going through some rough times, 2016, early 17, and I was like, I got my dad's golf clubs, left-handed clubs, by the way. I don't play golf, but they're left-handed golf clubs. You know how hard it is to find left-handed golf clubs? And I was pricing them out, and I was going to sell them one by one, and then my wife stopped me. She's like, no, you're not. You know, we'll get through it. And I was like, okay. But like, I didn't even consider the cameras. I was like, nah, not yet. And also, I don't think they're worth a lot. Like a Pentax K1000 and an f2.8 28 millimeter lens. I don't know what, $380. I mean, you're not. What's that going to do? Pay your gas for a month?
Yeah.
So, you know, I would see that one.
I just never really. I bought a lot of camera, but not because I was a collector. It was because I had to know
Yeah.
how they work. It's that kind of passion.
But I've gone through your body of work that I can see online, and I'm sure there's a plethora of more. But you're a landscaper,
Yeah.
wildlife landscape guy. Well, I'm also a wildlife landscape guy when I'm not filming a podcast or something. Like that's, you know, I only do this out of necessity, but my heart is in the landscapes. Never mind a really awesome elk or something. That's a bonus if that shows up in the shot. But I just want a really good vista, and I want to work in golden hour, and I want to do gigapixel stitched images where we go across 2 or 3 different times and make them as large as we possibly can. That's, for some reason, since I was born, that's what I've wanted to do, is create these lifelike landscape images that you could blow up and make them as if they were real. And so, I don't know, but
It's a combination of my love for camera, my love for nature, and so forth. I read every book I could put my hands. There was no internet. Every camera I ever bought, I was making sure I getting the instruction manual, and I read every one of them, wall to wall. And eventually it's all here, you know.
Just kind of became you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How old were you when you became truly proficient as a photographer, you think? Because you started at 23, which is young, right? That's pretty young.
I think I was. It's not really. I was kind of in a cabin. I was like in a cabinet. I never. The first maybe 10 years or so, I never showed anybody anything.
Was that out of fear or just
Yeah,
because?
out of fear.
All right.
I
You
think.
you didn't think you were good enough?
I
or-
didn't thought I'm good enough. I didn't know how to go about it. Now I'm much more person than I used to be.
Well, you say now, but like from 23 to 33, there a lot's happened between then and now. I mean,
I didn't done much when I was traveling around the world, and then I came back to my kibbutz and brought a lot of rolls with me from traveling. But when I came back to the kibbutz, I came back to the reality that I don't have enough money to do it.
could you even get the film developed?
I could, but not like
Not-
every day, you know, or I couldn't have the money to buy the rolls and to.
Well, back in the day, it was
To
a
print.
really expensive hobby if it wasn't a expensive profession. It's become it's still really expensive, but in a different way.
It's all took off when I came to America, and very quickly I came with $400 dollar. I tell people in 5 years I had a business that was rolling about 400,000 a year.
Wow. In Venice Beach.
Gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had the money available for me, and that's when it took off, and I made enough money to buy cameras as much as I wanted,
Yeah. Awesome.
the best ones, and I was shooting about 2 rolls a day, average, sometimes more,
48
but
images.
at
a day.
least 2 rolls a day.
Did you prefer color or Kodachrome?
Color was always my...
I prefer color myself because you can always go black and white, right?
Yeah, I see the world in colors myself.
I
That's how
dream
am.
in color. I see everything in color. I want to see the pigment on your skin, although I admire and respect a really solid black and white image.
I love black and white images. I just don't, it's not what I do. I
Yeah.
just admire other people's work. It's good.
I'm not a fan of black and white landscapes at all.
No.
My wife has brought home
Unless it's historical,
yeah.
then I
Well, my
recognize
wife
it
my
kind
wife
of.
brought home the Ansel Adams calendar, and twice same calendar because he's dead. He's not going to make more pictures, right? So 2016, we have the Ansel Adams calendar. I'm like, this is cool, whatever, yeah, nice. But then she brings it back again in 2020, you know, and I'm like, we've already had this calendar. I've seen all these images before. Oh boy, but landscapes in black and white aren't my thing. Although there are a few that are stunning, but
Yeah, I love when other people doing beautiful stuff. I have no, I really enjoy it, and I enjoy black and white. It's just not something I want to do. Or
I like it when they make the film opaque, like a Ridley Scott film, like Alien or something. When they show a really amazing landscape and it looks really dim, and it's almost out of color. I think that's really unique. But it has to have subjectivity. It has to be a part of something more. It can't just be by itself.
yeah, that's how I feel. I don't know. One girl worked at Ball, and I never really saw her images. And she was a student, and when she graduated, the students had a show, and I went to the show, and I was blown away.
She was doing black and white.
She was doing black and white, not landscape, more art,
Sure.
using TLR, Yashica,
Tell me that again.
TLR,
Oh, really? Was that
2 lenses,
The two lenses,
one you
yeah.
and one you take
Yeah.
a picture.
Or respect then. That's really unique.
It was just so beautiful, and so yeah, I realized people doing things that are not what I do,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't realize, that I like it. If I like it, I like it, and I let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fell back in love with my Mamiya 645 when we moved back from Utah. I lived in Utah for 3 years. And I got back into medium format, and I was using Ball Photo to develop my film. And I was just going around doing landscapes of like Grandfather Mountain, but then also the Devil's Courthouse, stuff like that, and during fall. And the images just came back fantastic. I mean, it's just, you can't mimic that. It doesn't matter how nice of a digital
If
back
I-
you have for a Hasselblad
if
or
I
whatever,
would-
it's not the same.
If I would feel comfortably financially to shoot digital let's say, E6 4x5 negatives, I would love to do it.
The plates,
Sheets, 4x5 sheets, film sheets.
what camera would shoot on that? Is that a Hasselblad?
No, Hasselblad is
That's
6x6.
That's medium format, right? Or is that large format? It's technically
Technically, Hasselblad is 6x6 centimeters. Okay, and it causes confusion. The 4x5 cameras are inches.
so it's
So
your
it's much
film
bigger.
is
Yeah, it's a sheet of film, 4 inch by 5 inch.
you're already shooting in a 4x5. That's nuts. And so I mean
Yeah.
that's the size of those images up there, basically.
Yeah, about this. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I may not need to stitch my
When
landscapes
you see,
if I shoot on
when you
that.
see it, the quality of this.
What's the camera that holds that film?
People mostly familiar with Garflex because that's what the newspaper guys used.
Can you, Charmaine, can we look up this camera? What's it called?
Garflex?
GAR?
Yeah.
FLEX?
Yeah.
Garflex 4x5?
Yeah.
Let's see what comes up.
That was the journalist
GAR.
camera of the day.
Yeah, Garflex. See, I've never heard of that before.
There is,
Great.
they're a good starter, you know, for a 4x5. They don't cost that much, around $400 or $500.
Yeah, but the film
With
is
the
expensive.
feeling, that's where the money is.
How much does it cost for
I have no idea.
just
but
just
it's up
enough to
there.
be out of range?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
enough for me.
Well, it's
to
not
look
something
at it
that's
again.
common either anymore. So this,
There is
this
people who
guy-
do it, yeah.
So you shoot on this.
Yeah, that can take 4x5. It can take also 120 backs.
Now, does ball photo ever come into the hands of this every once in a while?
We have right now, I believe, 3 of them for sale.
Really?
Now,
Charmaine, have you ever been into ball photo?
No.
So it's over there by the old mall,
Mm-hmm.
behind Olive Garden.
On Tunnel Road.
On Tunnel Road,
Okay.
yeah. There's a really nice camera store
Next to
over
the
there.
big lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We've been, so I used to have issue with ball photo because everything in there for a while was too expensive for me to afford. And their prices have become more moderate, I feel, over the last decade or two. But back in like '07, I was like, God, you guys, this is too much. I couldn't, and I didn't know where all the good stuff was.
I only started to bought from Ball after they did the move, cut half of the store, went into digital, sold a lot of their
Yeah.
stuff. That's when I really bought quite a bit. But
I-
I believe I got into Ball and New Spirit when I started to work there.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't start buying from Ball until you worked there.
A lot of people, because I
I think it's you're personable. No offense to anyone else, they'll probably not see this because they're not on the internet. But but no offense to anybody else who works there. But like you're incredibly personable, and
Yeah.
you see a photographer when they come in the store.
I'm there to help. That's what it is.
But you know we're common like
Yeah.
you, and we're immediately friends because you're like, hey, have you seen this lens? And I'm like, what is this? And you're like, well, this one is this and this and this. And
Josh, I love to help people, and I really do it. So people, they realize that there's not many stores where you go and the guy is really trying to help you.
well, and you also owned a store for a long time, and you're a very successful store owner, right?
Yeah, I
you
worked
you owned a retail outlet of your own kind for I don't know how long.
8 years. Then I bought a laundromat in Cherokee.
Mm.
Had that. I lost it in the divorce, but not because the place wasn't making money. It was just,
The divorce.
I'm white and she's Cherokee, so I couldn't get it. Not even a part of it. What you see from me at work is what I learned in the kibbutz.
Yeah.
The attitude.
So something good came out of Marxism.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the human spirit in general coming out of Marxism, right?
Kibbutz is a wonderful place.
Sounds like a safe place.
Very safe for kids, for elderly. The only problem I see is for a person that come out of the service, going back to his kibbutz, and all the young people are like brothers and sisters. We have to go out to meet a mate. If it's to college, if it's to...
So it's like an Amish community in a way.
In some ways, there's a lot of similarities.
Because the Amish have that problem. They're all related in a way. And
If
then
you-
it's like, well, what are we going to do? And so the children are put out there. I don't know about your community, but
We don't have any problem like that because Jews are very, very careful on these things. The rabbis are the ones who married and divorced people in Israel. It's not the government, not courts. It's a special religious court.
Well, it sounds like that might be the way to go.
and they don't allow marriage of relatives. It's not allowed in the Jewish culture, religion. So what we do, we go out. If it's to college, if it's to work in a young kibbutz that just started, there's many different avenues for young people to go out.
In Israel.
If you live in a kibbutz.
Mm-hmm.
But that period of time is a little bit problematic.
Mm-hmm.
When you get married and you decide to live in a kibbutz, you know exactly what you get into and it's fit. You're going to start family, kids, so far. But for a single person, young, they still want to get married.
Wants to meet someone.
Everybody around are brothers and sisters.
Or they're married. Or they're married.
Or they're married.
Yeah. And so you need a larger gene pool.
Yeah.
And so you
You
travel.
go out.
Yeah.
And that mean that you might find somebody and won't come back to the kibbutz. That you're going to find your life somewhere else.
And if they want their life in Venice Beach, you're going to stay.
yeah.
Yeah. When did you meet your wife?
I meet my wife in church.
Did you meet her when you were young or later in life?
I had one wife I met doing business. That was my first wife. That didn't work very well in 2.5 years of marriage. It's hard for me to consider
Right.
it as
But
a
the one you're with now.
And the one I was now was after I became Christian, after I started to go to church.
When
in
did you become a Christian? What year?
2000.
On the dot. So you've been a Christian for 21 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not half your life, but it's, I mean, how old were you then? 35, 36? Maybe 40?
I was 40, I'm now 62.
Okay. So, yeah. So almost half your life.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I'm 39, so when you were my age, you became a Christian. What brought you to Christianity? Tell me.
I was like Paul. I was on my way to discredit it again. And God I didn't choose it, He chose me. He opened my vision. I was reading scriptures too. I was meeting with a marriage counselor.
Over the first one.
Over the first divorce. Over the first one.
Okay.
And the guy that gave me his number never told me anything about that he's a Christian or that nothing. He just told me the good marriage counselor is out of town. He'll be back in 2 weeks. Give him a call. So I gave him a call and we started to meet, and he's talking about Jesus. I'm talking about my divorce. He's talking about Jesus. I'm talking about the divorce. After a few times we met, I really liked the guy, and I told him, Ed, I felt that I owe him a little bit because I never got any bill. The guy sit with me in a restaurant 2-3 hours till we started 12 and we leave the restaurant at 4. And we have really nice conversations, and so I felt a little bit owing something, and I told him, and I thought I was tricking him. I told him, Ed, I talk about my divorce, this, that, courts. You talk about Jesus. I'm Jewish. We don't believe in Jesus.
Mm.
And I told him, look, I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in God. I told him I had my spiritual journey still going on, but I did realize that the God of Isaac, Abraham and Jacob is the real God of this world, and I just don't practice anything. And since I believe in God, I told him, I'll give you a chance. Told him, as far as I'm concerned, 5 Jews can write New Testament and
Yeah.
start a new religious take over the world. That won't surprise me a bit. I'm Jewish myself. I know my people. I know they're very powerful.
Very. Look at what they did to Hollywood.
Everywhere they go, you
Yeah.
know, it's prosper. There's something happening. There's
Yeah.
no. It's not dying. It's
Right.
alive. And I told him that won't surprise me a bit. And that's where I thought I'm tricking him. I told him, if you can show it to me in the Old Testament, then I won't have a choice but to believe, because I don't know what is virgin birth.
Mhm.
I can't comprehend it. You know, it's just
Yeah.
not. And many things like you say that you raised again. You know, it's hard for me to think that. And this I didn't told him, but in my mind, I told myself, what a hillbilly from the mountains of North Carolina could tell me about this Jewish rabbi that my people don't know.
So you met this guy here.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
Did he have a country accent and everything?
yeah.
He was like, "Hey man, how you doing?"
No, he's a very educated person. Very, very educated.
But Southern.
But Southern, yeah.
And what was his? Was he Baptist
He's
or
an independent Baptist.
independent Baptist? So he's a true believer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And see how things work and how God's work. It's interesting. He was just waiting for it. And he gave me a list of verses in the Old Testament to go and read.
You read him then.
So I go home, I take a nap, I wake up, I open my Hebrew Bible, and I start to read. And God just opened the scripture to me and showed me how it's
Were you
all
having
there.
epiphanies and stuff like
What?
that? Were you having epiphanies and?
I don't know how you call it. It's not a vision, but
Yeah.
it's when you all the dots
You're like, oh.
get connected suddenly, and you see the real picture,
Yeah.
what you couldn't see before.
Well, have you ever used psilocybin or magic mushrooms?
I did years ago.
Yeah. Did you
When I
see
was
the big
in
picture
Germany.
then? A lot of people who get on mushrooms, they say they see the big picture. They see all the things connect. No.
No,
Yeah.
it was I wasn't very spiritual. I was in Germany. I
Set and
I
set.
had some things there that kind of.
Yeah.
Well, I was hallucinating on LSD. A girl in a party sat next to me, and she asked me, "Where are you from? You don't have an accent." I tell her, I'm from Israel. And she told me, "Oh, you were Jewish." And she wear a knife this big on her side. And she pulled out from her chest a cross with Jesus crucified on, and shouted like this in my face. I'm on LSD.
Did it burn you? I'm kidding.
No, I got so scared. I left the party and looked for a room in the apartment where nobody was there, and just sat there like this the whole time. I don't know how long I sat there, but it scared me.
Hmm. She was harmless, probably.
What?
She was harmless, probably.
Yeah, for sure. It was me and
Well,
the
yeah.
whole situation, my
Yeah.
background. I don't know.
Well, I can see why you'd be skittish, considering what you know and what you've seen.
But that evening, I was in the trailer that I just rented, a single white trailer. After I left our home because of the divorce.
Are you talking about back here in Cherokee?
Yeah.
Were you in Cherokee?
I was in Silva.
Silva. Well, so I was born in Charleston, but I grew up in Colowee
Coley, wow.
up until I was like 7 or 8, and then I moved to Hickory, where I did high school and all that. And so, but my formative child, like 3 to 7.5, I was in Silva myself, and it was just like I was just in love with being there.
I liked it very much, but that's changed my life. I found myself on the floor, I realized all the times that I was thinking negative about Jesus. If it's people that came and tried to evangelize me, if it's people that, one of my best friends that I didn't even know he's Christian, one day I thought he's a Jewish freak. That's what I thought. I didn't know he was a Christian, and one day I was making fun of Jesus or Christianity or something, and he told me, don't ever make fun of Jesus, and I looked at him. But again, I was totally carnal. It went from one ear. Only that morning, after that evening I got saved, the next morning the guy called me. The same guy that told me don't ever say anything.
And this wasn't the same guy who talked you through your therapy?
No, that's a guy, go back to California, that I met through my store. He was started coming in, love Israel, look like Jewish with a pious and a beard and some weird clothes.
He was a Christian?
He never told me he was a Christian at the time.
Did he have the curly cues?
He had a little bit.
He looked Jewish then.
He looked Jewish and he talked Jewish. He knew the
Imposter.
Bible. He knew a little bit Hebrew. I just thought he's Jewish, and then I learned that he is homeless, that he spent 12 years in the woods learning the Bible.
In California?
He could quote, I could open the Bible in any place, start to read, and he will continue right from there.
Well, put your energy into something.
So I realized it's not, it wasn't no drunks, no drugs, no nothing like this. And I let him get close to me and we became friends. I learned that what he was doing, he had some keys to dumpsters of big grocery stores and some coffee shops that he would go and pack food and
Resourceful guy.
go to the beach and feed the homeless. He was fill up a bicycle. You could not see him from all the boxes.
And he was taking that food to
And he
people.
was taking that food to the homeless.
Well, there's
people.
so much waste in our food cultures. We could feed the homeless.
It's
10 times
unbelievable.
over.
He would bring to me to the store. Don't bring it here.
It's from the dumpster.
Yeah, but it's all good stuff.
But it's still in the wrapper. You know?
I couldn't take it, but I let the guy get close to me. I gave him a new car. I let him live in my place. He was helping me, and then the hurricane came to North Carolina.
Which one? Hugo?
No, I think it was a
Irene?
96, I think.
94 then.
Or 95.
Are you sure? It was Hugo. It had to be
maybe
Hugo.
And he told me, Ty, God called me to help clean North Carolina. I told him, all right, keep in touch. And he was calling me every now and then. And then one day I told him, Dave, I'm closing the business. I'm moving to, I don't know, Colorado or New Mexico.
And you had a business in Silva?
No, business in California.
Okay.
And he's here in North Carolina.
Oh, so
In
you were in
Wilmington.
Cali and he was
He's
there.
here.
And okay, I see how it's
And he
connected.
tells me, why don't you come to North Carolina?
I mean, a lot of people think it's nice.
I told him, I don't even know where it is. Let me look at the map.
You're like, oh, okay.
North Carolina.
Could you
Then-
see the
then-
mountains? Could you
Then
see
people started telling me, North Carolina, I tell you, what you going to do there? There's no Jewish people there.
Well, that's not true, but
That's not true, but, you know, Jewish people in L.A., that's their way of thinking.
well, there are a lot of Jewish people in LA. Way
They-
more than North Carolina.
Dave told me, just trade your Land Cruiser to an F-250 and put an NRA sticker on the back and they love you. You're a Jewish redneck, they're rednecks, you're going to love them.
That's right. You'd be our Jewish redneck.
So I don't even know what he's talking about at the time. I'm so new in America. I'm only 8 years here. I don't
Yeah.
know what is redneck. I don't know what is NRA.
But at that time, you spoke
I was
about
just busy making money.
you spoke about as well as you do now. Then, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was a language barrier.
No. I just wasn't I was just busy from living in the street in my car to pay $6,000 rent and run a business.
Yeah.
I didn't have no time to listen to news or politics.
You were making money all of
or-
a sudden, and then it was, I don't know what they call that, but you're making good money.
But I told him, Dave, would you, if I send you a ticket, will you come and help me pack up the store and everything? So we did, and I traded my Land Cruiser to an F-250, and I came to Wilmington, North Carolina. That's where I started.
That's where he was?
That everybody was
You ain't coast to coast.
cleaning and fixing their yachts and their boats, and there was a bunch of men was in the marina just working and get drunk every night.
Yeah.
Basically,
And this was 95?
97.
97?
97. They were still cleaning.
Yeah.
I bought a motorhome that was already somebody wrote off. I mean, the insurance wrote it off. I bought it for nothing and fixed it and sold it for twice of what I had in it to a motorhome company and got bought from them a trailer, hooked it up to the F-250 and brought it up here and
So you
never looked back.
so you had to drive from Venice Beach to Wilmington, right?
Yeah.
And so you came through the mountains. When you saw them, did you have a sense that this is where you'd end up?
I had no idea, clue. I probably was asleep. And David was driving.
Uh-huh.
But the funny thing is that the day after I asked Jesus to forgive me, totally genuine, never been in church in my life, never been I've been in churches as a tourist,
Sure.
monasteries in Rome, Italy,
Yeah.
and stuff, but never as a. He calls me, tell me, I had a dream, your dad is on his dying bed.
David called you.
David called me.
So David's like one of your best friends then.
Yes.
He's a homeless guy.
Yes.
But he's one of your best friends.
Look,
It's okay.
look how things turn around.
Mhm.
This David called me, tell me God spoke to me, never done this before.
David said
David.
God spoke to him.
To him on a personal matter. He said, God do speak to me sometimes, but not on a personal matter.
Yeah, so through symbols and signs, but not
He
like
told
direct-
me, your dad is on his dying bed, and you are in the mess of the divorce. He called me to take care of you. Itai, I got money, I got everything I need to, and I'm coming to pick you up. I tell him, David, I have court next week. You can't just come and pick me up.
Mhm.
I try to dodge him. Tell him, let me think about it. I don't want to,
Mhm.
offend him or anything. So I told him, let me.
But this was you were in the mountains now.
I'm now in Silva. He's in Wilmington still.
Okay. Okay.
And 3 days later, he called me. I'm at Colima restaurant, driving a Mercedes. Come. When you come, you can see me. The
Yeah.
homeless guy now drive a Mercedes. Okay.
He made it.
So I was laughing because I took care of him almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
He didn't want money, so I bought him the best meals, best restaurants, everything, all
Yeah.
the time. And I gave him a brand new car. That was a problem because coffee shops that he used to get pastries.
It was registered to you.
When he came on a bicycle, they were glad to give him. When he came with a brand new Montero, they said, "What
Hey.
that's all about?"
I had a Montero in college. And the girls liked me. You know what I mean? So.
I bought a brand new one to my girlfriend. We've been together a long time, and then we separated. She went to Spain, so I ended up with a new Land Cruiser and a new Montero. And I gave him the Montero, and he started to go to the coffee shops to get his
And they were like, no.
you're driving a $30,000 car, and what's up, David? What you cheat us all this time?
That's like, no, I'm moving on
No,
up, man.
It's not even mine. They gave him a hard time.
Yeah, but
But so he tell me, I'm in Colima, come pick me up. I come, he drive behind me. I speed up on the hill to get to the house before him, get out of the car, get in the house, open the door for him, and then I ask him, David, are you a Christian? You don't have to hide it anymore. And I asked him first if you're a Christian, and he didn't know how to take it. He didn't know what to answer.
well, he just told you that God spoke to him.
Yeah, but he never told me which God.
Well, it's the same God. It's the same God. but-
In our mind today, yes, but at the time, I thought he's Jewish. So everything, if he mentioned God,
He
it
meant
was in
Jewish
my
God.
mind to the Jewish God.
Not to God.
Yeah, it's only after that night that I realized that David is a Christian. And when he came, and I first asked him, he was a little bit afraid. And then I told him, you don't have to hide it anymore, David. I became a Christian. Then he got a big smile, and I asked him, why did you hide it all those years?
So you both were like hiding the fact that you were Christian.
I didn't really hide it. I knew I was a new Christian, 3 days old.
Yeah, so you didn't have time. But
I didn't have a hide. No, I confront him because I realized that he's a Christian, and then didn't understood why he was hiding it from me all this time. Why he never say out blunt, I'm a Christian, I'm not Jewish.
why didn't he do it?
He told me because I always wanted a friend.
And he was
an
afraid.
Israeli friend,
And he was afraid if he told you.
that I'm gonna dump him.
Mm.
So he hid it, and
So his intentions from the beginning were just to be your friend. That's nice.
then I didn't have a choice. We went to Wilmington. He was renting from a Christian family, so they allowed me to rent from them too. We all lived in the same property. We started to go to the church that they were going, which was a big church,
Yeah.
about 1,500 people.
Mm.
I was there for a few months, and then I decided to go back to the mountains because I had to come here almost every 2 weeks just for courts.
And so your divorce was happening in Jackson
in Silva
County?
or Jackson County in
Yeah.
Cherokee. And so I decided to come back, and that's when I started to go to the church that Ed,
Mm-hmm.
that was marriage counseling me.
Mm-hmm. And he was counseling you up here?
Yeah, but eventually the divorce was over, and I met my wife, my
Current wife?
current wife, in the same church where I
In Wilmington?
came. No, here.
Oh, here.
in Silva.
Okay. So you went to the mega church in Wilmington for a
Yeah,
while, but
for-
then you came back up here.
Back here, started to go to.
Is this the
small
church, do you go to this church now?
Right now, we don't go to any church.
What was the church that you met her in though?
Victory Baptist Church?
In Silva?
It's, yeah,
Okay.
between Franklin and Silva.
Yeah.
It was a very good start for me, I thought. And then after we got married,
What year did you get married?
2003.
3. Okay. So you've been married for going on 20 years?
Almost.
18?
Yeah.
Yeah. I met my wife that year.
We were going out for about 2 years. We didn't want to get married. The divorce took a long time because I thought that I can get half of the laundromat at least.
Mm-hmm. Didn't work out though.
And it didn't work out. The last judge that you came, he was crook, and
Well, he wasn't into you. You didn't win the popularity contest.
Cherokee,
Yeah.
their own.
Yeah. Well, moving on from that though.
Yeah.
So you married your new wife.
So we we kind of went out quite a long time. Try to keep ourselves clean, what most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got married, and till this day.
Wow. Cool, man.
At that point, we moved the church, and we moved the kids to a different private school in Franklin.
Are you in Franklin now? You're in Waynesville.
No, I'm in Waynesville.
Yeah.
But at the time, we lived right in between Silva and the Cherokee, and the Silva and Franklin.
Silva and Franklin.
So it was easy for us to take the kids to private Christian school in Franklin.
Yeah.
They were going to Victory,
Yeah.
which also have a school, but there were some issues, some things that we had to leave,
Okay.
and we went to the church in Franklin, First Alliance Church in Franklin.
So, you make your way to Waynesville, and you started working at Ball Photo when?
When I met my wife, because I lost the laundromat, I had to do something for a living.
Yeah.
I did have a truck and a trailer and commercial. Me and my first wife had quite a bit of land, so I had commercial equipment that I bought.
Mm-hmm.
Before we got married, the family used to hire somebody, but when I came to the picture, I wanted to do it myself, so I bought commercial equipment. And when the divorce came, that was the only thing that I could took with me, so I started a mowing business.
Yeah.
And had that for about, 16 years.
16 years.
And all this time I was also a customer in Ball, and pretty big customer because I was buying a lot of equipment. And
they knew you then.
They knew me very well, and I was always...
and you're their age.
Yeah.
And so they respect you, and like those guys, they could give two craps about a lot of the young guys who come in. I'm one of them. I'm very aware of
they've been at it for a long time.
They're quick to judge, and they're quick to tell you straight,
Yeah.
So, and I mean, that's the nature of photographers with each other in general.
Yeah.
There's a pecking order.
I was just joking with Dan all the time. Dan, why don't you hire me? Especially in the winter when
there's nothing.
Your work is slow down. I used to tell Dan, why don't you hire me? I know more than anyone.
I know more than you guys do.
He said to me, yeah, but I can't pay you what you used to get paid, and this and that. I told him that in point in life that the money is not everything anymore. And it's something I always wanted to do. I know I have so much knowledge.
You always want to work in a photographer shop.
How knowledge can do good if you don't put it out there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Tell me, Itai,
for me, I can mow yard because I born strong, and I was working under the sun big part of my life, so that's easy for me, but I'm much more than that.
Yeah.
Not that I put it down, but not at all, but I knew that there's much more in me that need to get out there so other people can enjoy it too.
Well, here you are.
And here I am,
Yeah. That's why I brought you in. I wanted to hear your stories, and I wanted to get at least a snapshot of you right now on these cameras and stuff for our podcast.
They started me with come whenever we need you.
Mm-hmm.
Dan called me one day out of the blue, but he knew that during the Bush recession,
things got real slow.
Yeah, I lost a lot of yard and done a lot of residential, and kids just came back home to live with Mama. So,
and so it was more expensive to live there.
So they mow their yard now. So you gotta go. A lot of people lost their home and came back to live with Grandma, with Mama, with Daddy, whatever it is.
I went through similar situations. I didn't go back to my parents' home, but my business certainly took a sour hit. I mean, we went from.
That's when
we
Dan
dropped.
told me,
We dropped down to 1/8
you
of
know,
our
I'm not
capacity.
doing much.
Yeah.
And from there it grew till one day, I think 6 months later, one day the owner was there, and both Dan and the owner got me in the back there, and they said, we thought it's going to be good to hire you, but we didn't know what we got into.
Did you
I
work
do
there
it.
for free for a while, or
No,
did you?
no, I never worked for free, but they just didn't know what I used to. I tell Dan, I'm really good with people. Huh?
Well, 2008 was about the time I had a hard time going into ball photo because things were too expensive, right? And this was so SLRs were all phasing out, but people were still hanging on professionally to SLRs. I remember it was 2005 or so, and I'm out at like there's like a football team thing. I was doing a video highlight. I was doing video, and there was a photographer there, and he was shooting on 35 millimeter and sending them off to CVS to get them developed. And this is like late, okay? But he had like the Nikon D1 or whatever, like the film one, professional rig, super legit, but it was 35 millimeter. And he had such a setup that he was like, I'm not giving this up. This is the easiest thing. I don't want to relearn digital. And at the time, digital wasn't
That's
35.
Yeah.
I mean, the brand new Nikon digital camera was barely as good, if even as good as the 35 millimeter film version of that. And, you know, a lot of photographers were on the fence. And so the film camera still held a lot of value. And I would be going in there trying to do what I'm doing like now. Like I needed like knickknacks and like tripods and extension bars and everything to me at 20, I was 25. Everything to me was like 4 times more expensive than it seems to me now when I walk in ball. And it might be that I'm in a different place in my life. And so like that $290 lens doesn't feel as hard on me as it would back then. But I feel like ball's a different place now.
It is. 2 things happen. First, the pricing system changed. We go by eBay. So
You go by eBay.
So our prices are as low as they can get.
The adapters, the 2E mount, are always like $24. You know, and like they're not Metabones adapters. And a Metabones adapter is going to be $290. But they still adapt.
Yeah.
And that lens right there, you sold me that lens last week, Itai.
Yeah.
And you sold me the adapter on it too. Sure is holding it up just fine, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
And that lens that we're looking at is a
I
Nikon
have
lens.
something that none of them have.
What's that?
I grew up in a machine shop.
Yeah.
My dad and I don't have the talent that my dad had, but I been around it all my life. So when you come with a rod like this and you tell, look, I need a connection.
Well, you did.
I know what you're talking about.
You got
I can
me
take
this.
your lousy language trying to describe
She
something
knows all
that is
about my lousy
impossible.
language.
No, it's impossible to describe those kind of things. They don't have names.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll hit her.
You-
I'm like,
you got
hey,
to
that
really
one movie with the
listen.
guy and the hair, and she's like, oh yeah, that one. It's the same thing. It's the worst.
Everett would never fool with this much. He just,
Well, no, but
you
see,
get upset when
But
you can't.
back then I don't know if it's him or one of them, but like back in the day, I'd come in with that type of energy. And they'd be like, I don't have time for you.
No.
You know?
No, because they know it's
Yeah.
It's, you ask for something little that don't cost much, but it would take them hours
To figure out what it would
figure
be.
out what you really need and their work. And I'm like a hunting dog.
You knew right away though that
Yeah.
what I have rigged up here and back here. I wish I could show you on camera, but I can't.
Because
But like that guy right there, you sold me that thing.
I know what we have.
And I came
That's
in with
another
that
thing.
pole, and I came in with the bottom, and I said, I need to connect these. And you said, aha, And then you said, and then I said, okay, I need 2 more of those.
I know what we have. I know where. I don't put it on the air, but I'm the only one that know what we got, all what we got, and where it is. And I'm the only one that can see a big picture. And, you know,
Massive
when
inventory.
somebody comes for odd and ends like this,
Yeah.
I'm the only one to deal with it because they wouldn't know. Ever would pick the wrong stuff. Or they just don't. It's a gift. It's a gift that you
Well,
have.
they're more camera guys too. They're just kind
Every one of us have his own.
Yeah.
Everett is very good in many things. Dan knows a lot or more than me in some areas. In some areas I know more than him, or I remember more than him. Let me put it that way.
Maybe you forgot more than he knew. Who's to say?
I think he does.
Yeah.
Forget already more than he knows.
Yeah.
But Dan just don't have that to deal with people like you with your kind of needs.
I'm complicated. I mean,
It's
I know my.
aggravate them.
I aggravate them.
No, not that it's not you.
No, I know.
It's just whenever they have to deal with this kind of thing, that somebody come with a part or a tripod and they need a plate or they need an arm or
But these are real
anything
photographer
that is not
problems.
in a package ready to go.
Yeah. But there's stores set up to be that kind of grab bag situation for photographers too. And we always have really complicated questions because we're highly technical people.
Yes.
Most of us are like gearheady type guys, you know, and men more than women often overcomplicate projects. You know, not so much situations or like relationships, but projects we will overcomplicate. Look at what I did in here. I overcomplicated the shit out of a camera system to set up to do interviews in here. And it's, you know, there's probably, I know I have to turn on 27 lights. When I turn on the studio, 27 lights get turned on. And that doesn't count all the tiny lights. They set up on their own. But then on top of that, I have to turn on 4 cameras, 3 mics. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then the projector, I got to make sure the computer's running right. I got to have the computer behind me on for the background. It's a really complicated thing. And I know that my other photographer friends who are like me, or most of the time we're guys. I have some girls that are friends of mine too, but like I get into my most heated debates and conversations with the other men just peer to peer. And they are like so much more complicated than me in their own way. You know?
I like to simplify things, and I know to put things together. That I did it all my youth, even working as a kid in the dairy farm. I was, at 16, I was responsible on all the maintenance of the tractors, all the machines, all that. I was welding, doing everything. So I have a lot of experience in many different systems, and it's a gift. If somebody come and do you have something like this? That's for me.
Yeah.
That's for me. Otherwise, with Everett or Dan, we won't get anywhere, even if we have it.
Yeah. And you do, always.
Yeah,
Ball photo always has it. At least one.
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
I needed 3, but you had 1. And so I knew at that point I could go on Amazon and get the other 2.
The other 2.
But I didn't know what they were called until I got the 1.
Yeah.
Because before I knew what it was called, I called it a thingamajig. You know, it didn't even have a name. And then I realized what it was. And I was able to go get it on Amazon. For really cheap, by the way. I want to ask you, what is the most challenging thing or situation you've faced in your life to this point?
I think that right now it's maybe the hardest times.
With COVID?
If we are aware to it or not. Yeah, the COVID, the government that want full control on the people.
So there's this weird narrative.
It's now that I have to think, okay, especially with the vaccination stuff and the passport and all this. This is we're getting into a point where where we might not want to have as much control over our life anymore.
Well, there's also the issue that we don't know what's real because the media has construed everything. The vaccine's a great issue. Now, I don't want to see a vaccine passport any more than you do. But my wife is a pharmacist, and there is some legitimacy to the vaccine actually helping you not die from COVID. There is. And the trouble that I ran into, because I was a holdout too, I held out until literally last week to get my shots. I got my first shot on August 5th or 12th, and I got my second shot last week, and I felt like shit for 3 days. But I got it. And it wasn't because, I better get that so I can travel. It was, I better get that so I don't die. That was my thought. And my wife, being the educated woman she is, she broke me down with facts and resentment, and I eventually caved because my argument just wasn't as good as hers. She had a lot of bricks on her home that she was building, her foundation.
I understand. I maybe see things a little different, but no pharmacist, no doctor will be able to convince me because I look at two things, and I told all my guys in work. You see, I'm the.
Well, they're all masked up.
Oh, hey.
And they're mean about it.
Yeah.
They're mean about it.
Yeah.
You're mean about it. Don't be mean about it. But they called that one woman that day I was there. They called her a moron when she left because she wouldn't wear a mask. I was like, guys, there are other people in the store. You don't know what we think.
Yeah.
And they literally out loud called her a moron. And I was like,
I know where they are. I just I told them when it all started, watch Sweden. Watch Sweden, because my assumption was if Sweden is not going to put any restriction,
they
they're
still
going to
have it,
give
right?
us the classic model of what pandemic is. We know how to deal with pandemics for decades, with viruses, okay?
Well, in Europe especially.
The Swedish was the only one who took the scientific road, which basically you protect the unprotected, the elderly mostly,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest, you keep on doing the same thing. They're going to get infected, they're going to get over it, and that's how you build herd immunity.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully they get over it. Most
Now
of them do.
look at Israel. Israel is in the forefront of vaccination and everything else.
Forcing vaccinations.
87% of them are vaccinated.
If you live there,
I would have probably there. No, not all of them vaccinated. I know I have friends that are.
but
not.
if you live there, you may be vaccinated right now.
I would. With my ideas today, I would not. But they might force me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But they forced me in the army, and I refused, and I never went to jail.
Okay.
I usually make sure I'm good enough in what I'm doing that they don't want to mess. They don't want to get rid of me.
Well, it seems like that's your strong suit.
What?
That's how your father got through the
Yeah,
Holocaust.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you keep the same model,
Yeah. So anyway, if you look at Israel in contrast to Sweden, you see that the country that is the most vaccinated have the most sick people, the most hospitalized, the most death than anybody else. So the problem with these vaccines and the problem like that your wife and many other professionals never got the truth about it because the media
they never got to know about it.
they never got to know the truth about this type of vaccines. They think they know, they don't. All the people that came with the truth about those vaccines from the vaccine industry, from the people who invented those type of vaccines, people that are Cornell graduate, Harvard, they were the head of all the vaccination program, they were from the vaccine industry, was trying to warn us that this vaccine, it's not a vaccine, But we call it vaccine, but it's not. We call it vaccine because that's what people can relate it to.
What is it then?
It's gene therapy.
Gene therapy. And that's why we need boosters and boosters and boosters.
And every booster you get, you make it more weak and more often. My family in Israel, right now on the third booster, in 2 months, that booster is no longer good. And do we want to live our life every quarter
Getting a shot
Getting
and
a
feeling like
shot?
crap.
and close us and open us? And Sweden, look at them, they live normal life. They never closed schools, they never closed any business, they never mandate masks. They tell people who wants to vaccinate, who don't want, don't.
Charmaine,
Yeah.
I want you to do a search for how many people in Sweden are currently vaccinated.
I was just doing it on my phone. I was looking it up.
And all the
She's
virus.
on it. Let's see what she
See,
says.
including my boss, Dan, show me 99% of the people who are dying are unvaccinated. I told him, Dan, this is old. You don't understand. The government, our government, have an agenda to have everybody vaccinated. So they're going to do everything. They already spend billions trying
Sweden,
to bribe
as
us,
of
trying
right
to shame us, try to
Here, I'll make it bigger.
everything they can.
All right. Map of vaccinations in Sweden. 12.8 doses given. 5.88 million are fully vaccinated. How many people live there, though?
30 million.
12 point. Okay, so 5 point.
Sorry, hang on.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Do what you gotta do. I know it's a double search. So it said 5.8 million vaccinated.
No, 86.
So 50%.
It says it right there, 57.5.
All right. So a little over 50% of the people in Sweden have chosen to be vaccinated, but that was their choice.
Yeah, they didn't have to.
There was no weird.
No weird anything.
Yeah.
The thing is, they didn't close schools. We closed school. My grandkids is a year behind.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay? Businesses. There is businesses that will never going to recover.
Well, they're gone. I mean,
They-
it was a blessing to some of us, me being one of them, at least we think, for a minute, until the government takes my money back. And they've already threatened to, by the way. But for a lot of restaurants, especially, gone
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah. So I look at Sweden as a model that we all should.
Well, I think
follow.
we should certainly borrow Sweden's model. I
Yeah.
think we should borrow Sweden's model for a lot of things.
They're
Yeah.
the only one that use common sense. Everything else is for power and
I have a very,
control.
very close friend from college named Hans Bergman, and he was full on from Sweden, like accent and everything, and we were like college roommates, and he would always boast about how well Sweden is in this industry and in that industry and in this industry, and he was right about all of it. I mean, really efficient people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I thought it from the beginning. Now, in the beginning, they had high infection rate compared to other because they didn't make any mandates. But eventually, everything is balanced because that's how viruses work. Virus, if people infected, the virus gonna get
well,
weaker and weaker till it's just going to become like a flu.
Well, Rogan was saying yesterday that if you have the virus, Joe Rogan, the guy on the podcast, he said that you're 13 times more likely to fight off the Delta variant if you've had COVID versus if you have the vaccine. And I don't know if that's a true number, but
So you say you're going to have to fight harder if
if you have had the COVID virus, you're going to beat it a lot easier than if you just had the vaccine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I didn't took. There's another problem. I listened to one of the podcasts that I did listen all the way through. I wanted to see what you're doing,
Me?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm honored. Thanks. Lord knows which one you watched.
and I realized that you were concerned about your wife and
My
pregnancy.
vaccine consultation.
Yeah,
So that was interesting because that was in
that was
April.
probably early.
That was April. It was late April. April 30th was when I shot that. And I did not get vaccinated for another...
Your wife should not get vaccinated. Then.
She got it vaccinated in January.
She was pregnant when she got...
No.
Okay.
No. It wouldn't have happened then. But so she's...
See, I was worried because...
No, we want a second child. We're not pregnant, but we want one. And so I asked my doctor in the vaccine consult, I was like, what do you think about this with men's fertility? Because I was afraid it was going to mess with sperm up.
Then there was no data. Now there is.
Now there is, and they're saying that it doesn't affect sperm.
Not sperm, but in Israel, every woman that got the vaccine during pregnancy, 82% was miscarriage.
Oh, I hate to hear
That
that.
and when it worried me.
Yeah. So yeah.
But that data wasn't available.
Well, my wife is she's on that side of the fence, and I tell you, she's already talking about like vaccinating our 4-year-old, and I'm like, no, you're just not going to do that yet. I understand you're following science, and you think that it's okay, but it's not okay.
Now let
and
me go back.
She's like eager to get it done, and I'm like, no, you're not going to put this in between us. We're not going to fight about this right now. We're not doing that. You know, if she's 12,
I send you,
whatever. But
I send you a little clip where one of those world expert that they shut off is talking there. And basically what he says, this vaccine was not ever been created for a pandemic. And if they're going to vaccinate the world with it, it will cause mutations, and then you're going to need another vaccine,
Lambda
and another,
variant,
and
Delta
another,
variant, all
till
that.
you're going to get variant that you can that the mRNA don't touch anymore.
Can I talk about a deeper issue, though? I feel like the pharmaceutical companies had a part in creating COVID in a lab so that they could do this. The entire COVID-19 pandemic has been the biggest corporate money grab that the world's ever seen. From Jeff Bezos to just all of the Amazon, and then whatever else is happening with the large companies, and they're trying to suffocate the small businesses out of existence. And then on top of that, they're going to create a virus in a lab, which everyone agrees is what happened. Everyone agrees this has happened. Everyone except for Joe Biden, okay, or at least he's not acknowledging it. And then on top of that, now all of a sudden we have this vaccine, and it's being given to us for free, but on the back of what taxpayer? Pfizer's getting paid, Moderna's getting paid, and they've actually made, $78 billion since the vaccine became online at the beginning of the year. And it's like, this has all been a plan. This was all planned. It was all planned.
I agree.
And there's no way that it hasn't been planned from the beginning. And so the exploitation of human life, the exploitation of business and entrepreneurship in our country, which is what we're supposed to be founded on, is freedom to run a business. That's basically what the whole point of capitalism was, right? We're just all in this space now where we are not in control of our own lives, and they did it on purpose.
That's why when you ask me...
26 billion.
26 billion. And that's Pfizer, Moderna?
Pfizer forecasts 26 billion of COVID-19 vaccine revenue after the first quarter of success. After the first quarter results published by Pfizer this week, its coronavirus jab has reached revenues of 3.5 billion for the biopharma giant in the first 3 months.
Okay. And so it's just, people can't, 27 billion doesn't sound like a lot of money, because 27 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but people don't realize how many zeros are behind the 27. When you say billion, that's like 16 zeros, okay? And then on top of that, how much money would it cost us to clean up our homeless population in America? It wouldn't cost 26 billion. Maybe 1 billion, maybe 3 billion. But yet, none of that money is being allocated towards those programs. Our education system is in the shitter. Yet our teachers are still being forced to go to work for less than $30,000 a year in most cases. And they are the most undervalued people in our country. Yet education is number one and paramount in Asian countries. I don't know. Everywhere but here.
Yeah. Well, here they rather talk about social issues than teach kids how to prepare them for the real world, you know.
I mean, I think
Now,
we're just venting, but I don't know how we solve these problems.
I don't know either. I think it's had to come from the parents, from the people you vote for.
Well, let's go back to Marxism. A big part of Marxism was to deteriorate the nuclear family, right?
Yeah.
And they did that in your groups, correct?
And then they brought it back.
And they brought it back because it was really not working.
No.
Okay.
And that's with the most, educated, intelligent people, well-behaved.
Well,
You know what I mean?
is history doomed to repeat itself at this point?
Many times, yeah.
You think it's just going to continue to ebb and flow back and forth, back and forth?
We obviously can't learn. I see my nephew in Israel wearing a Che Guevara T-shirt. He don't realize.
It just looks cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a pot leaf
Yeah.
on your shirt, or a Jamaican flag.
You don't register that this man killed, butchered so many people, so evil.
I mean, a lot of us don't know the full history of Che Guevara. I mean, even I don't, because I'm so far removed from it.
Brutal dictator, another brutal dictator that killed his people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sad, and the young people, it's all about optics. There's no real knowledge anymore. There's no real...
Everything's being watered down to a meme.
You tell me, if the pharmaceutical companies pushing laws in Congress, they're educating the doctors, they're educating the pharmacists, why do you think that your wife going to have any opinion different than what the pharmaceutical industry have?
Well, to her defense,
No, I'm just kind of...
No, you're fine. To her defense, she sees very clearly the writing on the wall with Big Pharma, and she feels she actually just had the company she's leaving was just bought out by Pharmerica. It sounds big, doesn't it? Well, they're watering down the salaries of all the pharmacists right now, like by $30,000 a year. And then they're also bringing in new technicians at way less, like 12 an hour, not 24 an hour, 25 an hour. And so you can see they're increasing their profit margins significantly just through paying people less money. And the suffocation's beginning. You see the suffocation again? People can't make a living wage. $12 an hour. You can't live in Asheville and make $12 an hour. No. They're trying to build high-rise apartments and all of these things so that we can live like the Japanese do, and maybe that'll help. But that's not really the lifestyle that we desire as Buncombe County residents, is it? Or Waynesville or wherever.
Yeah, the thing is that they tell us that we are overpopulated. They tell us that there's too many people on the planet. The truth is that only in Alaska you can take all the 7 billion, 9 billion, whatever population of this world and give each one of us a full acre there. And the rest of the world will be empty. There is no overpopulation. There is no...
Well, I mean, but look at the images of Israel there. The way they make us think about Israel being overpopulated, but then you're showing me farmland, and that's where you grew up, and that was a Google image from like last year, and it's still farmland.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at what looks like, the middle of California on a map. It's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Rolling gold hills with mountains, with green trees, plenty of forest, plenty of nature.
There's plenty of space.
Americans think that the entire Middle East is like in this box, and they're all on top of each other fighting. You know, like that's just.
In Israel, you go, you won't know. Even if they fight, you hardly ever know. It's. I don't know how to explain to you when you live there. Now, of course, it got very bad since I left. When I left, there was no any. They were hardly throwing stones. I don't talk about knives and weapons. Even stones they weren't destroying. There's nothing, not much.
Well,
but Israel is under the microscope, and Israel is.
What do you think about the microscope of the Palestinian camps that we're all seeing on camera right now? So, like, the Palestinians are trapped into space, and they're not allowed to leave. And that space is pretty tight, from what I can tell, right?
They're not allowed to leave. That's not true.
They're not. Well, what I've read and what I've heard in videos online is that they can't even get access to fly out of there to just escape being there. Like, they can't leave.
No, that's not true. I don't know what you saw. Each case has to be judged because there's a lot of falsify of information. Hollywood is a big issue.
Why? Let me ask you.
The ones that still live in camps, they live in the Arab countries. It's not in Israel, what you see.
I see.
And there is a few.
When you say the out country, what do you mean?
Lebanon, Syria.
Okay.
Jordan is 70% Palestinian.
And when Americans think of Libya and Syria, we think of squalor. We think of everything being bombed or rubbish, and there's nowhere to be except for in the desert.
Again,
right?
You have to go back to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is when the Arabs refused to talk with Israel. In 1967, when the war was over, they said no negotiation, no peace, no nothing. With
the
Israel.
Arabs did?
Yeah.
But is that because they lost?
They lost the war, and that...
And then they excommunicated?
They shot any chance to... And then they started to use the Palestinian as a political tool.
Well, that's what the Taliban have been doing, right? Like, the Taliban have, like, they swore off any and all contacts with America. They did this.
It's a little different thing because the Palestinians, you see, with the refugee camps that you see, that's not in Israel. In 1948, the Arabs told the Arabs that lived in Israel, which you call today Palestinians. I don't even call them Palestinians. I call them Arabs.
Yeah.
There is no such a thing, Palestinians. They told all the ones that lived under what was a part of Israel in the partition plan, they told them, get out, we're going to make a war, get out, and we'll let you come back after we win the war, then you can go back, we'll kill all the Jews, blah, blah, blah. Those poor guys left to Lebanon, left to Syria. They never win the war. Mm-hmm. They lost the war. So now there are refugees in these countries, in other Arab countries, with those Arab countries never gave them any rights for anything. Okay? In Israel, there is no refugee camps. There is a few refugee camps that the Jordanian created before Israel took over Judea and Samaria. The Jews never created refugee camps.
Charmaine, what did you have?
And they just...
Where all the refugee camps are.
Keeping it...
Where were they?
I'll put it back up in a second.
I couldn't see it.
And they keep it that way for profit, again. What the economy of the Palestinian?
I don't know, what is it?
Begging, give me.
Okay.
And because we are poor, because we are the underdog, because we are David, you need to give me.
Yeah. What
And
did you say,
that's
Sean?
how they have no life now without it.
There you go.
So it's keep on. They don't want to talk. They don't want peace. We
Yeah.
are normal people, but if you come to shoot us, we'll shoot back.
This one says
This
nearly.
is from the UN.
This says nearly 1/3 of the registered Palestinian refugees, more than 1.5 million individuals, live in 58 recognized Palestine refugee camps in Jordan, Lebanon, and the Syrian Arab Republic, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. What do you think about that?
This
They
is from the UN
they
Relations.
in this it's a little bit misleading because they consider all Palestinian refugees. Not all Palestinians should consider to be refugees.
Some of them are living a fine life. Is what you're saying?
Yes. The Israeli Arabs that didn't leave Israel, they're not refugees. They live well. Why? They consider every Arab that don't live in Israel is a refugee, but not all of them are refugees. They're already, it's going on 100 years. For how long are you going to call yourself refugee?
Yeah.
Why are you not assimilate?
Yeah.
What all the Jewish refugees from Yemen did? What the refugee Jews from Iraq did? What the refugees from Egypt did? All those Jewish Arabs, after 67, they wasn't welcome in the Arab world and they had to leave. The rest of my family, my mom came in 1945, but the rest of the family was let go out in 1959 and they couldn't take anything with them. Not their house, not their money, nothing. Where are they? They're all assimilated in Israel. Why the Palestinians cannot assimilate in the Arab countries? Why are they keeping their, like,
Are they? Let me
we
ask
don't
you,
owe them nothing.
Let me ask you a
really.
question. Are the, let's just call them the Palestinians for right now. Are the Palestinians running into this weird rub where like they're damned if they do, damned if they don't?
No.
If they stay in Israel, they can't get what they
They-
want, and if they go to Jordan or Syria, it's a horrible life.
Israel offered them 97% of what they were asking.
But they were like not happy because they couldn't get that last. What was the last thing that they wanted?
Israel gone.
Okay.
And that's not acceptable, and that's why they're living in the misery they live.
I thought it might have been a sacrificed goat or something.
No, they just, it's pure evil. Why would you teach your kids to hate Jews? Why would you teach
To hate anyone.
a 6 years old to, you dressed him with a suicide vest
Yeah.
and give him a plastic gun and teach him to kill Jews? Well, how are you going to make peace with people, with this generation coming up? You tell me.
Let me ask a question.
I've got something pulled up if you guys.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
a fun fact, but it's
Go ahead.
No,
Speaking
it's-
of the mic.
It's
You can leave it right there. I hear you.
cool. It's the Palestinian. Let me read the title: Palestinian Refugees: Myths versus Realities. It was written by Norin Al-Hamadan in February
You want me to
22nd
show you something?
of 2021. No, it just has
I'll
like
show you something.
it has a lot of what you're saying, and then like dispelling, like.
I'll
myths
show
and
you
things.
Palestinians that talk in a way that
Well,
you never heard.
that's not what this is about. It's just like if you want to see these facts, it's from mei.edu. So it's like
Well,
accredited source.
the community can go look. We'll put a link.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But,
It's just like an
but let me ask a question. Let me ask a question. Get us back on track. Hollywood is Jewish. Like all of it's Jewish.
I know it.
To a point where like I have literally been screwed out of money by a Jewish man on a job. Like it's been I've literally witnessed it. I've been Jewed before. Okay? Now, if they are Jewish, why is Hollywood now sort of catering to Palestine in the way they are portraying the treatment of Palestinians?
Because they disconnect from reality.
but it just
You have them in my kibbutz. We have them in Israel. A lot of the people I grew up with and will agree with it, those people with Hollywood.
yeah.
We have them all. We have, one thing about Jewish people you need to understand, they are very intense, and whatever they do, if they're criminal, they're good criminals.
The best.
Yeah, if they're mean, don't get close to them. If they're, because everything is to extreme. Everything we do better than everybody else for some reason. I don't know what it is.
But when you say to the extreme, in many ways, I feel similarities
If we're
to
bad
the Arabs.
people, we're really bad.
Well, I see similarities in the Arab world. A lot of Arabs are really successful people. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, of
A
course.
lot of Arabs, when they're going to be mean or hate, they're going to hate the best. They're going to be the best
48%
haters ever.
Just so you understand Israel, okay? 48% of the doctors that finished this year are Arabs,
Mm-hmm.
Palestinians. I don't call them Palestinians again. Are
You
Arab.
call them Arabs. I mean, I think that
It is-
straightens it out for
yeah.
everybody too.
It's 24% of the nurses. They all sit in very high positions, very smart people.
Yeah.
Very smart people. One thing they never figure out. Why are you still fighting the Jews? The Jews are willing to make peace. It's this size. If you just can come around, you're going to have even better life.
But the Arabs who are, wanting to exterminate the Jews or whatever, they seem to want to exterminate all people who aren't like them.
Look
Which makes me wonder what they think about the Chinese people.
Look at Saudi Arabia. They turned on the Palestinians. Not turn on. They don't want to keep on with the lie. Enough is enough.
All right, this is a good one. What keeps you up at night?
Nothing.
Nothing. You sleep like a rock.
I don't sleep anymore like a rock, but I kind of credit my getting older. It's a little bit harder to sleep full 8 hours.
Mm-hmm. I don't sleep 8 hours.
Nothing really keep me. I trust Jesus. I know where I'm going.
Do you ever find yourself getting emotional? Do you cry?
Oh, many times. Not cry, but more kind of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I get frustrated when people talk about the Palestinians and I have to explain to them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do you fear death?
not at all.
No. I mean, strike up. Go ahead.
What?
Do it again. Do
Yeah.
it. Strike up. Strike up.
See, I'm not.
So, do you fear death?
Not really.
I wanted to get that one. That was a good sound.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going. Our time here is very, very short. It's significant, but it's very short. And I believe it's for only one reason. No matter what you do, no matter what kind of occupation, what your financial, only one reason for us to go through this life.
What is your meaning?
To choose to love Jesus.
And in loving Jesus, are you loving yourself?
I am.
Well, that's what I mean. No, I'm asking like a more ethereal question.
I'm not a guy that hit himself in the head.
So
all the time.
I mean, like I've had a few epiphanies of my own on drugs or just in general in life, and I've always come back to this weird narrative that I follow, and I don't know if other people do, but I follow this narrative that like if Jesus was the Son of God, and then they teach us in the Bible that all children are children of God, then in that statement, we are all just as Jesus was. Because you're the Son of God, I'm the Son of God, she's the daughter of God. Equivalently, that means she's the same.
Absolutely.
Right? And so therefore, we have it in us to be as influential or as powerful in our own lives as Jesus was in his.
Absolutely. He said we can have more power than he had.
Well, he was just setting an example for us. And your friend David, he's a really great example of that, of God walking, it seems. You know?
Yeah.
His only intentions
Yeah,
in
his
meeting...
faults too, but But I mean,
Well,
he's-
yeah, but,
yeah.
but go back and live with Jesus for 3 years when he was in his 20s. I guarantee you there were some flaws that we may or may not be knowledgeable of. You know, I mean, he was human too.
I would say he didn't have any flaw, but we might think it's a flaw.
Well,
But
there are statements made about Jesus in his youth. And there's just not a lot of story about Jesus in his youth, and you'd think that that would be documented in story. You'd think it would be.
Well, he was hiding in Egypt from.
Yeah. I just get the same concept about Jesus as we do about George Washington these days, about how he lied about cutting down the cherry tree. You know, it's like, but other than that one lie, George Washington was a flawless human.
Human.
Even though I think he owned slaves and all sorts of
I
awful
don't
stuff.
know, but
But like,
the way I look at it is, God told us that He makes us in His own image. So what the problem here? The problem is that Adam and Eve sinned. And one of the things that you see right away after they sin, they coming out and they realize they're naked and they cover themselves up. With what? With animal skin. Blood had to be shed for their sin to be covered up. It was from the beginning. That motto, keep on and on. And my understanding of life on earth as we know it is that that's the period of time that we have to reconcile into God's family, back into God's family.
mm-hmm.
That's the real thing. We can be very influential in our work, in the world, or whatever it is. It don't matter. You know, if Josh becomes famous and have 1 million followers.
me? No.
I'm just, you know,
Good luck.
that's one aspect of life, but that's not the most important. That's what brings bread, that's give you satisfaction, something you want to do. But
Well,
in the big picture, it's a time that we have 80 years, 100 years to reconcile to God, come back to the family. So eternity will be in the right place.
yeah.
This is very short.
Do you
It
believe?
goes so fast.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
Not really.
Not at least in the sense that Itai comes back. Like, you don't think Itai comes back in another life, but maybe a
No.
transcendence of you, like
No.
through
I
your
believe
offspring,
when
or
you die, you basically go to sleep. Your soul go to sleep till Jesus come back again, and then it will come.
okay. And that's through scripture. You read that.
Yeah, Paul says, he talks about the one who's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's the soul that died. They're in kind of a sleep mode till Jesus come back. You know, we in America, to me it's funny, but we always say, even in Israel they say now, they got so Americanized. When somebody dies, they say, okay, he's going to be with the Lord, you know, or
I
he's
got
in
it.
a better place. But that's not really biblical. That's what I think. So, while you work, think about your fellow man. If you see, you know, just be a good human being and reconcile to God. That's the main thing. Everything else is just, it's going to have an end. And it's come so quick, Josh.
I just
The-
I'm in the middle.
I know you
Almost.
must feel it because I know that from 30 up, time just run like before you know it, you got babies and then they're in college and before you know it, they're buying a home and getting married
And
and you're.
do you still feel like the young man in the
I do.
dairy farm?
I do. I think every old man have a young man in him.
Mm-hmm.
Or a woman, same thing. It's just that you know that your body is not functioning anymore the same. You can run as far as you did. You can do a lot of things that physically you
So a lot of people have given up on the idea that God is returning to us one day in the form of Jesus. A lot, even Christians, the ones who do say anything about that, much like you did here, they get a giant yawn and an eye roll from the rest of the world. Like literally the rest of the world is like, oh, here we go again. Jesus with the sky and his second coming. Like you get that rebuff. If in fact, Jesus does return, do you think it will happen in your lifetime? Are we close? Or do you think it's got a long way out to go?
I think I'm probably not going to be here.
You'll be in the sleep.
I think so. But it's very close. I think our kids.
You think?
Your kids, yes.
Well, when I read the trends and the way, I just have a really hard time witnessing China and Russia back a Taliban group. And they are finding, but see, ironically, we're backing them too. We gave them all their weapons. So it's the same thing. But
Try to look at Israel at the focal point of the world and read prophecy, and you'll see that what happened has been prophesied, and it's just closing in very clearly. Turkey, Russia, China, they're going to be the next power.
what is Israel's relationship to China?
Don't really know. I think we work some with them, but we're also very careful with what we give them. And we did give them much more than what I thought that we should give them, but that was because the Americans stopped the project and there was too much money invested in it, and already tools and knowledge and products and the Levy. I don't know if you remember that airplane. Israel was developing their own bomber fighter.
What year?
called the Levy.
Was this in the
90s,
80s? Okay.
America was financing the project, and Israel came out with a fighter bomber that cost a lot of money, and nothing can beat it up. Nothing the Americans have, nothing
Really?
the Russians have. So they shut the project. They didn't want Israel to have something like this. So what do you think Israel did? Sold the blueprint to China. And now China flying those machines, probably not with the same electronics.
Why didn't
stuff.
Israel sell that to the Americans?
Americans pulled their hands. The Americans were the ones who financed that whole project. And when
And then they pulled their money out.
something that they couldn't touch militarily, they just pulled the money out. But there was already industry built for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what you doing with it? So they sold it to the Chinese. I don't know if they sold them all the secrets, but the Chinese airplane now is Israeli design, and they're good.
I have a family member on my wife's side, and this was before COVID though, so I don't know if he still feels this way because I've spoken to him since, and he seemed a little shook. But he said to me, I was like, are we not worried about China? Are we not worried about, China and Russia teaming up? Are we not worried about China, Russia, and Venezuela? Are we not worried about Red Dawn? That's what it sounds like, right? The movie. And he's like, don't worry. We got it covered. He sells missiles for the Navy. Okay. He's like, listen, we're good. And I'm like, are we? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. But that arrogance.
The thing is that the Chinese stealing everything. Just now Israel had a huge
that's a big issue.
attack.
Yeah, well, that's the
stealing
thing.
everything from here and from
have
there is knowledge.
They do not think intellectual property is, of value.
Yeah.
I know that.
Well, they know the value. They steal it.
Yeah. Well, no, but they don't. They don't see the financial value, I guess.
They don't think it's a reason to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe one day it will be.
Well,
I thought the COVID could be a reason for a war.
well, it definitely was close, wasn't it? You know, we had ships in the Sea of China for months when Trump was in office, and now they have been retracted, from what I can gather. And so we're playing footsie with them now with our current administration, and it doesn't look good.
Josh, something I read recently, a few articles, basically tell you that our kids need to start to learn Chinese.
And I mean, I'm okay with that. They've learned American. Hear me?
No, but
they've learned
they say
English.
because China going to control America.
But this is my thing about the Asian cultures in general is they all speak really good English. Really, they speak English well. They speak really good English. You know, they're really good at being bilingual. The Koreans especially. All right, and so for me, it's like, shouldn't we be bilingual? Even if it's just Spanish, shouldn't we know it? Because we're so self-centered.
Yeah.
Here, our films, and you know, my mom, she's watching this Korean soap opera right now, and she's hooked. She's got to read the subtitles and everything. She's like, it's so weird listening to them talk. It feels like it's all chopped up and mixed up, and I'm like, yeah, I bet it does. She's like, I can't take my eyes off it. They're all so good looking, and I'm like, I know, but it's funny to hear her say that she's watching a Korean, you know, soap opera. Like, it really is. But that's the nature of our times.
Think about it this way. There is huge benefit to speak another language because it gets you into another culture.
No, you speak English
and Hebrew, a little bit German.
and Hebrew and some German.
Little bit.
Well, I feel like coming from the melting pot that is Europe and Eastern Europe and in that area where you grew up, you can't help but learn another language.
That's
You don't
the
have a
thing. That's
choice.
what I was going to. The reason why Chinese and Koreans speak good English and the reason why I speak in good English is because we don't have a choice.
How are we
If
so
you
influential on the rest of the world?
Most of the books for higher education in medicine, they're all in English or in German. I don't know if China ever translate everything. I know that the reason we study English is because if you go in Israel if you want to be a vet or a doctor,
You have to learn it in English.
you're going to have to know English.
Well, how did the white man get its hands on the written word so early, and why was it the white man who did that? Whether it be the Jewish white man or the Christian white man.
It's the Jewish people again.
You think it was the Jewish people first, and then it trickled out because of Christianity?
They went out to the world, especially in the time of King Solomon. There was peace. King Solomon built a temple.
Was this the library of... What was that library that burned down a long time ago? Charmaine? The Victorian library that burned down a long, long time ago, and we lost a lot of technology and knowledge. And it happened during when the Romans fell. There was King Solomon before that. Had to have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
King Solomon was after David because David had blood on his hand.
After killing
David wasn't let to build the temple.
The Library of Alexandria.
Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria, was that under King Solomon?
Keep going, Mom. I'll let you go.
She'll let us know.
Alexander, that should be Egypt, but
Yeah.
King Solomon was not only in his time there was peace in the world. He was entrepreneur. He sent voyages across the sea. A lot of us believe that he was the first one that got to America, a lot before.
Well, the Greeks also played a role, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they weren't Jewish, correct? They were pagan, right?
They were pagans. They developed the Latin language. We had Hebrew and Aramaic.
Yeah.
And we learned from each other, you know. Then we went to Africa and North Africa. Why, when the Catholic Church was starting to convert everybody to Catholicism or die, the Jews that didn't want to convert immigrate to North Africa. North Africa was
Julius Caesar.
wanted the Jews.
Caesar. It was under Caesar. That was when it burned, though? Okay.
That's a lot after King Solomon.
Yeah.
And
King Solomon was before all of the things that happened with the Mongolians, too, right?
Before the first.
He was before Mongolia and all that happened
Like
with
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan, that I'm not sure where Genghis Khan came at.
I'd love to see that timeline somewhere where it was like, you know, King Solomon. Where was he in the timeline from Genghis Khan to, you know, the Roman Empire? All of that. I'd like to see all of that on a line.
See, and one of the reasons that King of Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, all my family was working for the king in Egypt.
Mm.
They needed the Jews because the Jews know how to read, how to write, how to sew a suit, how to... So they were always teachers in the King Palace, teaching the kids of the rich read and write, and very, very common in the Jewish, especially in the time, in those 2,000 years that we were in the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
Or they killed us, or they used us in the top position. You know, it was one or the other.
You find anything over there yet? No.
Not
Oh, it's okay. If I can find a timeline of that, I'll put it up just at the end of this. But what advice might you give a young man like me who's stepping into his... I've been in my second phase of life for a while, but the third phase of my life will roll in soon, which you seem like you're in your third phase now. What advice might you give a young man like me who is similar to you in interest and you know, whatever, work ethic?
Make sure your finances intact. We don't know where the world is going, and be generous with your money. I make, you know, there was times I was making a lot of money, and I lost it all. First marriage, basically, and had to start all over again. I have my own house. I got money in the bank. I can stop work today. I don't have to do anything. And what I did put attention, especially in my, since I was saved, is that before I was very stingy with my money. I was just about taking,
Very Jewish.
yeah,
right?
making it.
Yeah.
Just making it, and the more the better.
Yeah.
But if I see somebody hands out or a homeless person, I would say to myself, go to work, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You know? But now I don't judge people. I see somebody in need, I don't try to think what caused it, if he's on drugs or if he's on alcohol. You know, some people doing this, I stopped.
Well, I mean, but you also, you helped your friend David a long, long time ago when you were making money.
Yeah.
And you watched him excel.
Yeah, but today I help much more. To help a friend, that's not a big deal.
He was still a homeless guy, though. And you figured that out.
Yeah, before.
Yeah.
I got paid for that 10 times.
Yeah.
But I'm saying even my experience today, if I go now out and there's somebody sit here for I don't know what reason and need money, ever I give him, I get back right away. If it's a customer, give me a tip. If it's a... Yeah, I never lost money from giving money. It only got better, bigger and bigger.
Nice.
It's a biblical principle that I never really got the grasp on it till I got the grasp on it.
If
It's easy to help people that are in your, if it's family or friends but be generous. Be generous with the one that need it, and you'll see it's coming back tenfold.
Is that the same advice you'd give yourself at like 10, 15 years old? What would you say to yourself if you were like a young man?
I think that the generous heart is maybe the biggest treat that
A generous heart.
A man can have. Especially a father, in the family thing. Yes, because our Creator loves it, and He gives you back. He send you money back. I never went under what I have. It's always, if I give, I get more. It's just unreal.
Have you ever given to somebody and then just kind of felt like they were taking advantage of
Oh
you?
yeah, of course.
Happened to me a few times in Asheville. I tell you
Oh
what.
yes.
This guy pulls up in some black Camry, and he's got this fat wife next to him, or girlfriend, and she's sitting there on her smartphone. And he like somehow got a $20 bill out of me. And I was like, he left. And I was like, what the fuck was I doing?
Look,
I was
how
mad.
It happened to me. Okay, in a parking lot with Bo, come to work. A guy pull out, or a girl, in a sub.
A sob.
A relatively new sub.
Well,
I had a few of them, so I know about.
Relatively new for Saab is the last year they made them, whichever.
Well, I don't know if they still made them. I don't think so. But
They
at
don't
the
make
time,
them.
it was a relatively new one.
Yeah.
And he come and tell me a sad story. I have to go back to Boone and it's out of gas and blah blah blah. I gave him $20, $10, whatever I had. Went back in. By the time I went back into the store, I said to myself, "Gosh, the guy driving a relatively new Saab
Got you for 20.
He got me for $20, $10, whatever I gave him. 2 years later, he walks in the store. I'm an Iraq vet. I need money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you recognized
I
him.
recognized him. I told him, yeah, tell me more. Yeah, so he keep on and on and on and on. Dan coming out. Told him, now that we're all here, you scummed me $20 here 2 years ago, when you're still at it. Get out.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't me, yes, it was you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd see a couple guys panhandling, and you'd see them there, and you'd throw them some coin, and then you come around 3 weeks later, they're still there, and you're like, ah. And so I don't know. Let me ask you.
Yeah, something like this I would maybe refuse, but I less refuse than ever.
Yeah. What are your dreams for your family?
I want them all to do good. Me and my wife more or less do what we want. It's the kids that struggling.
They're just young. In their
They're
20s.
young and they
Teenagers, 20s.
don't. Oh, they'll go all the way up to 45.
Okay.
I just wish that they gonna do something with themselves. It
What do the young kids in your family, the young kids, they're my age or Charmaine's age, what are they struggling with the most?
Well, I have two or one in that age. She struggled with alcohol. That's a killer.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol. Again, I don't really want to get into this online. That's their story.
We can
It's
just
a
cut
sad
that.
story
We
there.
can just cut, but like in general, what do you think our generation? You're a boomer. I'm technically a millennial. I'm a xennial. I was one of the first people born with technology, like high-end technology in my hands. She's a Generation Z. She's behind the millennials. but just barely. All right? If you're talking to the millennials, and you can consider that us, if you want to put an average between us, what's the biggest thing that we need to worry about?
I think about your freedom. The future of your freedom as a human being. I think they cutting slowly, and with this pandemic, they have now perfect opportunity to have total control on our life, and the young people need to understand that it's not something that comes for free. You have to maintain it. You have to.
Freedom is not free.
Yeah, it's not free. And it's when it's been taken, it's very hard to go back.
Yeah.
I feel that when I came to America, a young man could come like me, or come out, or is here, and just start poor, and build something for himself. Today, I don't know if it's possible.
I don't think you can build something for yourself so much as you can enter the system. And at that point, if you get a job at Amazon or Coca-Cola
Yeah,
or wherever,
for that,
you can work and you can make money.
That's if you have education.
Yeah.
I came with no education, only acting school a little bit behind me. $400 in my pocket, lying to the immigration officer, asked me how much money I had. I told him I have $10,000. He asked me, can I show it to me? I told him it's on a credit card. And that's how I got by with it. But I had only $400. I lived all together, or let me put it this way, after 2 months, 3 months, my friends that let me and my girlfriend live in their apartment had problems between them, and they asked us to leave because of it. And in a week we had to get out. And for the next 2.5 years, I bought a motorhome and lived in it behind my store, renting a parking space for month by month for $60 a month in LA.
Not bad.
And saved my money that way, and build a store. My first from the street, from $1,000 outdoor vending, I went to a $4,000 store, and then to a $6,000 rental store. And it's all was hard work, sacrifice, when in areas where I thought I could sacrifice and save my money. And I don't think that a young man can do this today anymore.
No, I think it takes a special type of person anyways. And I think there are people out there who have the mindset.
There is people that doing it,
but
it's not.
It's few and far between, is what you're saying.
But what I did learn about America is I didn't have money, but there was people who were watching me all the time.
What were they watching you for?
They saw that I have something good going on.
Mm-hmm.
And right when it was needed, I was basically, some other Israeli guy offered me that boot to buy when I didn't have any money. He bought that boot from a guy that was from my kibbutz. And they all happened to be there at the same time. And the other guy that grew up in the same kibbutz that I grew up told him, he'll pay you back, let's make a deal with him. And I owed everything to both of them. And I was...
Well, your own kind of people helped you here.
Yeah.
And that's great in America, isn't it?
But I had to pay them off.
That's okay.
You know, that's okay.
But that same story happens in the Latin American community too, you know?
That's what I'm saying. When you're doing something right in America, the day I finished to pay them, I had an American guy. I was in my 30s, he was in his mid-60s. When I met him, I thought he's an old hippie. long hair, live in a camper. And he was coming every day. We were just talking. He would walk and come back and blah, blah, blah. The day I finished to pay it, he came to me and told me, "Tai, I watched what you're doing here. I know you got something very good going on. I have some money that I don't know what to do with."
I love to hear that.
You know? And he told me, "If you're going to come to me with some reasonable offer, I'm going to let you use it." And I came to him with the offer, double his money in a year. Gave me the money. I made my own import. I invested $10,000. I made over $65,000
So you paid him back?
in 3-4 months.
Wow.
And that's how I got into my first store, paid him back.
Yeah.
I told him that I'm going to pay him in a year, so I didn't pay him early. I was just keep
You
on
waited.
paying him
Yeah.
as we agreed.
Yeah.
And it was a story every time when I needed something, it came. It came because
You sought it.
there's people that watching you. They see what you're doing. They feel to be a part with this, or
So more or less, the lesson is make the effort, because
everything else will come.
there will be a witness.
There's so much money around here. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And if you have an idea that is good, and you're a hardworking person, and you're willing to, and you're honest, people watch you.
Well,
And they're waiting for the moment, you know?
well, I wonder, is this a good idea? Let's hope so, right? I mean,
yeah.
people will
Well,
have to watch this. So
I saw some of your blogs are really good.
thank you.
I thought, I'm now here, it's all looking good, you know? I think you're going to succeed. Just a matter of you doing it.
It's
to do
the
it. That's all. And do
it's
the best
the-
you can.
it's the
You
girl
know, and
behind the
that-
computer over here keeping things together.
And then things just come, you know.
Yeah,
I learned not to worry.
divine timing.
I could not believe how much money came to me. Not from the banks, not from anybody, anything like
Oh,
that.
not alone, just straight up.
People just pushed me up because I had something good, and they saw that they can make some money. It's okay, you know. So
What are your final
I-
thoughts? What will you leave us with here?
keep doing what you're doing. Keep on talking on the issues because people get so much false information. Our government is no good. Our media is no good. The big companies, you have to watch anymore what you say in a blog. They might cut you off.
Well, I know that. I've already been kicked off TikTok, and we were kicked off of a few other. Well, Facebook muted us, you know, before we could even get started. And so it's just taking a lot of time to get on the right channels.
Yeah.
And it's picking up.
It's very important. I think that today the government pay influencer to make us believe in lies. It is, I don't know. You know, being from outside of here, you see things better. We have a say in Hebrew that guest for a moment see every problem.
Mm-hmm.
In Hebrew it sounds better, but
Yeah.
there's something very true about it.
Well, no, like it happens when you, like if I would walk in on a job and I'm in this new job and I'm immediately like, that's stupid. That's stupid. Why are they doing it that
Yeah.
way? You know?
Yeah.
And then you're the guy who's telling everyone how to do it differently, and they've done it that way for 15 years and they don't like you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
You tell them the truth and they don't like it, so they.
Yeah.
But those voices need to be heard, and then people struggling to find good information, good news that are true, opinions that are balanced, that are not off the wall, you know. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions in this country about a lot of things. I remember when one of my coworkers, the first time I heard about the flip between Democrats and Republicans, I told him, and he's left, very left, and I told him, what do you think Jackson County vote for? He said, Republican. I said, no, you don't know what's going on. Jackson County and everything up to Cherokee County, it's all Democrats. They all
Swain County is more red. I'm pretty sure.
Swain Country maybe yes, and maybe even Franklin, maybe a little bit more red. But
well, I mean, with Jackson County, you've got the university there, you know.
that's a student. But if you look, people that I worked for, a pastor, Independent Baptist Church, he's a Democrat. I asked him, how can you still be a Democrat? My father was a Democrat, my grandparents was a Democrat. They're all Democrats.
Well, it's like
they think like conservatives, but they're all Democrats.
Well,
in
this area, if you're born a Tar Heel fan, you're a Tar Heel
fan. Yeah.
You know, if you're born a Duke fan, which I was born a Duke fan, I'm a Duke fan. It was just I was born a Duke fan. My dad was a Duke fan. The other members of the family were Duke fans. You know, it was just that was the way it was, and I think that's exactly what's happening with our political stuff too. Is like we're born.
Yeah.
Some of us, not all of us.
I'm driving a Ford.
Yeah, Ford's a good truck.
That's what I see. You know, if somebody, then maybe when we talk about politics, I talked with a guy from Murphy, who was in the dealership in Waynesville doing oil change and inspection. And the guy started talking to me. I think he's totally Republican, you know, till it came to Trump. And then I realized, okay, asked me, are you a Democrat? He said, yeah, I am. But I like that Trump put, because he's a Christian, he liked that Trump put the embassy in Jerusalem. But he voted Democrat.
Well,
you know,
it is what it is.
Because
you gotta let them vote the way they want to vote.
Yeah. I look at him. We talk, and the more we talk, I said to myself, he's more conservative than conservative. But he vote. He vote.
Well, I think we need to wrap.
Yeah.
We're at 4 hours almost.
3:47.
Yeah, you know, I have an hour drive home.
Yeah, I know, right?
My wife probably wonder what's going on. No, I told her that I'm probably going to come late.
Thank you for
I
showing up.
told you I could talk.
I know. We're going to get you in again. I'm Josh Lloyd, and you're on The Ridge. Thanks for watching. Hey, man, shake my hand again. That was good.
Yeah, you know.